Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. So it looks like StreamYard has changed a bit. There were some things I had to fiddle with, so I'm a little bit late. Anyway, Assalamu alaikum, Ramadan Mubarak Kareem to everybody. Inshallah, the Ramadan is going well for you. Enjoying this time of prayer and contemplation. Yes. Excellent. All right, let's see who we have with us on stream. Assalamu alaikum. 607. I just answered this for you. So he's asking basically about the time where you break your fast, because the Quran says to complete the fast until night. A lot of people get thrown off by that because they think nighttime must be when it's dark, right? Just when it's dark. So right after sunset, it's still light for, for a good 20 minutes, 30 minutes or something, and it gets slowly darker. But Quranically, night starts when the sun cannot be seen anymore, right? Night does start at sunset. So, the Quran talks about the 24 period, talks about al-layl wa nahar, right? The daytime and the nighttime. And it defines the nighttime as what covers the sun, right? The sun is, the day is brought to life by the sun, and night is what covers the sun. So as soon as you can't see the sun anymore, it's nighttime. And when you can see the sun rises. It's daytime, which is why technically the fast we don't fast during the day, right? We fast from Fajr until night. Like the Quran doesn't say fast during the day, right? It talks about the time to fast, which is an interesting thing I was thinking about before. When does it say to start the fast? This fast is supposed to start when the white thread becomes clear from the black thread from Fajr, right? And I really like that. I mean, before I used to think, okay, why isn't it as set as, for example, when you break your fast? When you break your fast, you can know it to the second. It's as soon as the sun disappears over the horizon, that's it. Nobody ever quarrels about what time that is, right? But it's less clear when you think about this sort of almost vague, right? The white thread becomes clear from the white thread, the black thread becomes clear from the white thread from Fajr. It's not as clear, which is actually a very good thing. It's a bit of a mercy because it prevents you from being so dogmatic about when you're going to start your fast. So at suhoor time when you're eating, right? And you say, okay, now the time from your calendar or wherever it tells you now is the time that you have to stop eating. Don't take it too exact, right? For example, if you've got like a cup of water and you're drinking it, finish it, right? It doesn't have to be that hardcore about it. What does it mean that when the white thread is clear from the black thread from Fajr? To me, it's talking basically about the differences in the horizon, right? So the thread, the issue is a lot of us live in the cities and away from nature. We don't see the horizon, right? But imagine if you're in a desert place, right? You'll be able to see the horizon, okay? And when you can start to see the horizon line on one side where the sun is going to rise from, you start to see a sort of a white thread. The horizon gets this little white thread on it, right? And you can just see that. And on the other side, you turn around 180 degrees, right? And you see on the other side, and it's still black, right? So it's when you can start to see the differences between the horizons, the two horizons, the horizon where the sun is going to rise from and the opposite horizon, right? One looks more like a white thread, one looks like a black thread. When that becomes clear, right, the difference becomes clear, that's when you start your fast. That's how I see it. Anyway, Assalamu alaikum, God's faithful. I'm going to bring you on in a minute. I just want to add something before I bring you on. very quickly. I don't have like a long presentation or anything. I just want to share something. I think I've already shared it in the chat. This, right? So I made a Google folder, shareable Google folder, and I've put in all of the notes for these presentations. And I just want to just talk a little bit about that. You see, can I change this to make it like this, the usual way? All right, so Ramadan Kareem Mubarak, of course. So this series, looking back at it now, it's quite amazing. And we started it on the 15th of April. That was, episode 1, right? 15th of April, 2021, right? So that's almost 4 years ago. SubhanAllah, right? And since then, we've gone from this. So this is from my my Obsidian vault, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. It's where all the notes that I have live in markdown format, plain text basically. So we went from this. Episode 1 was locks and Ramadan, and then episode 2 was life and hell, God's fitna. I mean, the naming of these things doesn't really tell you much, to be honest, but it is what it is. So we went from that all the way up to we're here now. Episode 107, you can see at the bottom over there. Let's talk Q&A number 6 with Google Drive link. So you can go to that now and just download. Feel free to download it, change it, read through it, do whatever you want to it. It's fine. But what it has basically, it's a folder with all of the markdown files which have these presentations on them. And the attachments which go with it. There's a couple of videos which are linked to it as well, but most of the attachments are just images and things like this. Like this image, for example, right now that you're seeing. It's not going to be in there because this was, I made this after I shared that. And my recommended program for, being able to view all of this is Obsidian. It's a fantastic note-taking program. And because it's plain text, any computer will be able to read it. You host your files yourself. Files remain on your computer. They're not, for example, like Notion or Evernote. All your files are stored in those companies' servers, and they're not actually on your computer or on your phone or whatever. Now, I used to use Evernote, which was fantastic for a long time, but then they became just really, really aggressive, with their policies. We used to be able to make as many notebooks as you wanted. That's how they had things. They had notebooks, and inside each notebook, you could make as many notes as you wanted. Used to be able to do that. Then they started limiting the number of devices you could have linked to your Evernote. Used to be able to link it to 3 devices. You could have it on your phone, on your app on your phone, and on your laptop. And so any note you make or changes you make to any note would be synced across all devices. It was a great way to jot down, your thoughts, your ideas, and things like that. But then they reduced that and made it that you could only have 2 devices linked. And then I think now they've made it only 1 device you can have linked. And then they reduced the number of notebooks and notes you're allowed to have on their, on their free program. And I had always liked, Obsidian more, but because I was already embedded in Evernote, I didn't make the move until they really squeezed down on us. And then after that, I shifted everything to Obsidian. I also used to use log.6, so you'll see some of the files in here. They'll be a little bit different. If you remember my earlier presentations, they were a little bit different. They weren't using, this is even from Obsidian. I'm using a plugin called Advanced Slides on Obsidian, which will then allow me to present through a tab on Google Chrome. But log.6 used to actually work directly in the browser and let you do presentations directly from your markdown files. So you'll see some of the formatting is a little bit different, but it's still markdown files, so it's fine. And it's a great application. I mean, this is a window from it. Here you can see the graph view for my vault. This middle node here, the big chunky one on the bottom left, That's the Caravan of Contemplation notes, all linked together. And so what you can do, of course, once you've made a note on whatever it is, you can link it to a different note. It has this, backlink and forward link compatibility sort of thing. You end up making your own knowledge base or database, what's called PKM, personal knowledge management. Okay, you can make a database and you can search it and you can have basically, all of your ideas put in there. Here you can see all the ones which are linked to each other to something, right? And the next slide I have, this is the full vault with all of the attachment and orphan notes. You can see on the top left, you can see Evernote 1, Evernote 2, Evernote 3. These are when I imported the notebooks from Evernote and then, imported them into Obsidian. They are not linked together. So I've got a lot of orphan notes. These dots that you can see which aren't linked to anything else. These are orphan notes. They're just notes which are there and which aren't linked to anything else. And, and that's because I just imported everything from Evernote and I sort of need to go through it. But you can see, there's a lot there. You gradually end up, building up a lot of information. I mean, there's a lot of things in here which I will one day bring into, an episode in the live streams. So there's different ideas which I have, which I haven't brought in. Different nodes here, clusters of projects that I've done and things like this. This is mostly just for my YouTube channel and religious, Islamic sort of studies. This vault, I don't have anything personal on it. But yeah, so it's a fantastic program. I highly recommend it. You can go onto YouTube and see different ways you can use it, different plugins. It's a very, very customizable. But just get on in there and start to create your ideas. Helps your thinking. The better you can write, the more it promotes your thinking. Anyway, so I recommend this program if you want. But the link for the folder on the Google Drive folder is in the description of this video and in the chat, so you can just open that up and you can download the whole file if you want, and read through, maybe download Obsidian or any other program you like to view markdown files, and then you don't have to sort of open up the you don't have to listen to the live streams. You can just read the notes for each one if you so desire. Okay. Sorry about my daughter screaming in the background. That's not going to change anytime soon. All right. Okay. So let me bring on our one guest here, God's Faithful. And remember, please, anybody who would like, you're more than welcome to come on and share anything you want, or today's a question and answer day, so come in with that if you like. Okay, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Can you all hear me good?
Yes, can hear you. Fantastic.
Okay, so I have a bunch of ideas, but I'd like to maybe start out with a discussion on fighting and politics in the Quran and a critique of pacifism and liberalism. So I'm trying to just expound or just explain the Quran's verses on fighting, and I want to show how backwards and deranged modern society is, and how pacifism is just an illogical nonsense dogma.
Okay. Go ahead.
All right. So, politics is, we have to first define what politics is before you would have to understand what war is, because war comes from politics, and war, fighting is war. All right. So war or politics originates from the fact that mankind has free will, or not necessarily, more that mankind has differences. If we were all one people, as in one ummah, as in the Quran mentions this a lot. Had we willed, we could have made you into one community. But this is not the case. We are made into different tribes, different nations, and we're different people. We have different doctrines, we have different ways of life, and from there, I assume this is the case because we have free will.
Yeah.
All right. So from this, you get politics. This is essentially the origin of the political concept itself. All right.
Okay.
All right. So now, when let's say we have two groups of people, two nations. When there are two ways of life, so they have differences. There are times when the differences are to an extreme that they interfere with another nation's group of way of life. All right. So these differences from this, friends and enemies develop. So this is what it is, like awliya wal a'da. This is the essence of politics. Allies and enemies. All right. So this is essentially from there. What politics is, by definition, is a struggle of a people. More specifically, a struggle of a people, either maybe race, maybe the way of life. There's something that unites these people against a common enemy. Okay.
Okay.
And once you understand this, you come to the conclusion that since politics is about allies and enemies, there must be war by definition. By definition, an enemy is someone is an enemy is someone you try to destroy. He's against you.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. So this is the origin of war. This is how from politics it goes into war. And now what the Quran is trying to do is it's trying to guide people. So people can be divided from many different things. Maybe from religion, from race, from language. There's a lot of things that classes like Marxism. There's a lot of things that can divide us and turn a subject into a political subject. Where what I mean by political subject, that there's friends, there's allies, and there's enemies. Okay. What the Quran is trying to do is that it's trying to make the ally and enemy distinction from all the other things, from race, from culture, from all this. It's trying to make it for people that serve God, the mu'mineen, against the kafirin, the people that are against God. So awliya Allah, hizbullah, wa hizb shayateen, hizb shaitan. So this is from the essence that shaitan is the enemy of mankind. Politics comes, and this is kind of the justification and the origin of war and fighting on. Yeah. So I can pause here for a second until maybe you can reflect upon this. We can discuss this a little bit.
No, I got you. I mean, I sort of mentioned this a little bit in my I think it was in the video about who God loves and who God doesn't love. I'm not sure. But the verse that الذين كفروا يقاتلون في سبيل الذين آمنوا يقاتلون في سبيل الله والذين كفروا يقاتلون في سبيل الطاغوت فقاتلوا أولياء الشيطان إن كيد الشيطان كان ضعيفا. Those who have faith, they fight in the path, in the sabil of Allah, which means what? The sabil of justice, right? كونوا قوامين لله شهداء بالقسط. كونوا قوامين بالقسط شهداء لله. That verse. You have the two versions of it. And whereas the الذين كفروا, right? And of course, when we talk about الذين كفروا, again, we don't mean it's disbelievers, right? We mean something much more, we're talking about really the evil people, right? The shaitan,
I can give you a better definition. I've thought about this.
All right.
And if you read Surah Al-A'raf, if you read Surah Al-A'raf, you will see that Surah Al-A'raf is entirely on الذين كفروا, or more specifically al-kafirin. It will tell you exactly what the kafirin are, how they look like, what they do, and everything. So if you're interested more, I'll tell you more specifically, al-kafirin, or people who get the ayat of law. So they get proofs. They can see expositions of God's divine governance, and then they deny and reject it.
How about this? How about one of the next streams or something? You come and you present on that, specifically on kafirin, like you said,
Yeah.
from Surah Al-Araf, yeah?
Yeah, sure.
Because I don't want to take away from what you were saying right now, with a side tangent. But you asked me, you wanted to pause. But yeah, I understand exactly what you mean. So you're basically summarizing that. What it seems to me is summarizing that verse that I mentioned before, right? الذين آمنوا يقاتلون في سبيل الله والذين كفروا يقاتلون في سبيل الطاغوت. Those who have kufr, they fight in the way of the taghut, right? The taghut. And then the verse ends up, finds up like, underscores this by saying فَقَاتِلُوا أَوْلِيَاءَ الشَّيْطَانِ, fight the allies of shaitan, right? So
Right.
that seems like is that basically what you're saying, right? I think that mirrors
because I'm trying to just speak on this subject, because so the shaitan has managed to poison poison society through there's two two things that are really poisoning society as we have right now. Is that of pacifism. You see, the people just absolutely reject war and fighting. They don't understand what the purpose is of fighting, and they're just cowards. Yeah. And the second one is liberalism. Liberalism is, I don't know if you've heard of it before.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So it's the toxic doctrine of saying that everyone is equal, everyone is the same, and the most important thing is an individual person's material wealth. It's essentially the atheistic, materialistic world we have right now, where people's utility is the highest. This is where you get feminism and trans people becoming transgenders. It's kind of, if you really consider all the things that we have right now, the origin is liberalism. Once you reject liberalism, a lot of the disgusting things we have will just fall. Okay.
Yeah.
So why is it the case? Why are we even commanded to fight? All right. So fighting, what you have to understand with a friend or an ally and enemy distinction is that even if you reject it, let's say you've become a complete pacifist, you're not gonna fight, you don't want any enemies. Someone else will take you as an enemy. Like, let's say if all the mu'mineen don't want to fight, they've been poisoned by this ideology of pacifism. Let's say we only attack them if they attack us, or we do it in self-defense, or what have you. Okay. This literally gives free rein for the enemy to just absolutely destroy you. Okay, I'll explain how this is the case. For in politics, what you're trying to do is you're trying to use as many means as possible to destroy the enemy. And when you completely reject fighting, what's going to happen is you're going to get enslaved. Someone that becomes a complete pacifist is going to essentially be enslaved by his enemy, or he doesn't even recognize that there's an enemy in the first place. And this is what happened now. As soon as mu'mineen, as soon as the believers stopped fighting and became fearful, what happened is the shaitan managed to get a coalition of Satanists, and they managed to enslave al-mu'mineen. So this is talking about al-mu'mineen al-mustada'afin. If I know there's the ayah on لما لا تقاتلوا للرجال والنساء والولدان المستضعفين في الأرض يقولون وليا ونصيرا
وما لكم لا تقاتلون في سبيل الله والمستضعفين من الرجال والنساء والولدان الذين يقولون ربنا أخرجنا من هذه القرية الظالم أهلها واجعل لنا من لدنك وليا واجعل لنا من لدنك نصيرا. It's the verse which says, why don't you fight
That's
in
right.
the cause of Allah while there are the oppressed among men and women and children who say, oh God, get us out of this township, this qaryah, whose people are oppressors, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنْ لَدُنْكَ وَلِيًّا, and make for us from your presence a supporter
An ally.
and an ally, and make for us from your supporter, from your presence, somebody who will give us victory.
That's right. So this is what happens when mu'mineen reject to fight, and they say we can only fight if they attack us, or some bullshit pacifist, something like this. What happens
Well,
is
I don't think that's pacifism, right?
a little bit.
So I mean, to say that you will not fight anybody unless they show aggression, I don't think that's I don't think that's pacifism.
That's true. That's fair. It's not pacifism as in we're just not going to fight whatsoever. It's a different kind of pacifism, at least in my opinion. I feel like it's not how it's like, I don't know how to explain it.
I mean, I agree with you in one sense, in that look, you're not supposed to be naive,
yeah,
right?
it's not
You're
how
not supposed to be,
it should be.
naive and sit there and wait until those who are clearly show hatred towards you or animosity towards you build up their armies and make allies and surround you, and you sit there and say no, we're not going to do anything unless they fight us, right?
That's right.
That isn't that, again. So that's not the same thing, right? So I mean, I understand sort of where you're coming from. Just some of the wording, to be honest, it puts me off a little bit because it's almost it can be taken like you're saying that you can just preemptively go to war with those who are not your okay. I suppose it depends how you see them as your enemy or not, right?
That's
So if you see them and they're actually actively being your enemy, right? Then that's already a state of war, right? If you're talking about somebody who's your enemy, it's already in a sort of a state of war already. So in that sort of way, when there's already a state of war, I don't think there's any such thing as you're only being defensive. No, you already have an enemy. It's a state of war. You attack, right? You don't sit and wait.
Yeah, I guess maybe what I'm trying to say is maybe the issue is the mu'mineen right now are not recognizing that we're right now in a state of war, and they're not even recognizing that there's an enemy, and they think they think a state of war only happens once there's like physical violence, once like maybe some physical violence starts. But this is not the case. This is not when war actually starts.
Well, I mean, the physical violence, I would say, has been happening, has started for a long time, and places are occupied, and we've got coercion, and leaders are bribed, and it's a mess. It's a complete mess.
Yeah.
So you can, in that sort of sense, you can say it's we are like in a state of war already, right? I mean, there's so many things that are done to just completely corrupt and undermine, the ummah, right? And from those who are in our ranks as well, from everything from the financial debt, the banks and the slavery and the whole countries being put into debt for other countries, with extortionist interest and what can you say, right?
So, also, I'd like to. So this is a small. I guess this is the small critique on maybe you wouldn't call this pacifism, you would call this naivety, or not realizing that we're in a state of war between an enemy right now. And
Yeah. I mean, I would just say that. I mean, the labeling doesn't have to be, I mean, that dramatic. I mean, for example, now, if the Ummah and Muslims, if we talk with the Holdings, we're not a Ummah right now, right? It's the believers are not a Ummah, right? We don't have a Ummah of believers. We have different nation states, and we don't have strong alliances between these nation states even. Right. So look what's happened to Palestine for however
Right.
long. Look what happened to Libya. The wars were happening there, right? But the Ummah didn't do anything, didn't band together for it because we don't see ourselves as one people, right?
Sure.
So if the Ummah had that unity, would be 100% and all of us in a state of war right now. But instead, we have wars between ourselves. Look what happened to Yemen. Look at the vitriol between Iran and the Gulf countries, right? You have all of these tensions all around where we're not united in any clear way, so that when
Right.
one part of us is being attacked, we can all say yes, we're in this is war. Anyway, the birth of the nation states has been generally a good thing, but it's only benefited the powerful countries so far.
The thing is, the current mu'mineen, other than the enemy, which they don't recognize, and they don't realize when they're fighting us, and when war has already started. But they're also not. There's the ally and enemy. They're not taking allies from among themselves. Like even taking from that of even Christians or Protestants. Like there's just completely been divided up. Like the battle is between us, the people that believe in God, the monotheists, and the battle against the shaitan. And they're just fighting, doing sectarian infighting, and just ignoring the enemy. This is how
I mean that same battle is going on even within the within like the non-Muslim countries as well, because there are believers over there who are also waking up, who are aware to how their countries are basically under the thumb of shaitan and the taghut, right? So you have people like that who are seeing that. What's that woman's name in America? Candace Owens, right? So she talks a lot about that. She's a Christian, and when she woke up to sort of what's happening in Gaza, she took like really firm stances about that. And she would say, look, as a Christian, I cannot turn away from this and accept that this is what's been happening. And it opened up her eyes to a lot of things, to the Zionist Israeli influence in American politics, right? There's a whole the assassination of JFK because of the nuclear program, and the what's his name? Epstein, right? And all that sort of stuff. The blackmailing of the American political establishments and everything. Pizzagate. There's all this stuff where you have this is happening to all of us. So when you talk about, if you would talk about in terms of a state of war between the believers, the monotheists, we put ourselves with them as well, with people like Candace Owens and other people in America who are seeing America, Britain, France, people who are seeing that the shaitan is the enemy within themselves as well, right? Creating discord, hatred towards Muslims, ramping up the war drums. How long has Israel tried to get a war with Iran, right? And people are realizing that this isn't our fight, isn't our war. we're being pushed into that.
Sure.
Hmm.
So yeah, so on this was mainly a defense or an apologia for the fighting verses in the Quran, because from the toxic poison of liberalism and progressivism, they've made all fighting verses assume as like the Quran is barbaric or savage. But they don't even understand politics. They don't understand that the enemy is trying to destroy. If you don't destroy the enemy, he is literally gonna destroy you. Like if
Yeah.
the shaitan wins this, what's gonna happen is God is just gonna destroy mankind, just like when the shaitan won against every single nation in the past, except Yunus.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like, this is what we're going into.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, I agree definitely that one of what do you mean? I mean, people say it all the time, right? For to ensure that evil wins, all that needs to happen is for good people to do nothing, right?
Yeah.
That kind of pacifism in the face of evil is it in itself, an evil, right? The Quran talks about, do you not see those whom it was told to them, establish salah and give zakah, but then when fighting was prescribed for them,
They, they
the
forgot to do
attitude,
Adam
no,
Salah.
the attitude becomes like they are being asked um, for death, right?
Yeah.
And they turn away. So they're happy to pray and fast and give zakat, but when it's time for the actual fight, when it's needed, they turn away. They fear, like you said, cowardice. There's a lot of cowardice when it comes to that as well.
I'll tell you why this is happening. This is going to be on my critique on liberalism, because
Hmm.
the idea of liberalism is what kind of breeds this. This is how the shaitan has been trying to push liberalism since ages time, from the times of Babylon. If you've read on Zionism, you'll see that this has been happening, and the shaitan has managed to like really really put this poison in
Hmm.
from the 1900s.
From the
After World War
Babylonian
II.
times. Did you say the Babylonian times?
Yeah.
Hmm. Well, I knew it was around um, from the First World War and
Yeah.
afterwards, right? The cultural Marxists in Germany and places like this, which led to a lot of decadence and stuff, right? So the first transgender clinics and stuff, they all came from Berlin in Germany, um, and that sort of stuff was happening. But I didn't know anything about Babylonian times, right? That's going real biblical, huh?
Yeah. No, no,
Yeah.
I can send you a very satanic document, but it literally explains to you what they're trying to do, and what they've done in the past, and where we're going.
Mm,
It's such an accurate document, literally from the satanic cult itself.
mm. SubhanAllah. Yeah, sure. Send it. I definitely wouldn't mind having a look.
It's a popular one. I don't know. Let's not do it, so we don't get banned from YouTube, because they're
All
trying to
right.
censor this.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Anyways. Okay. So talking on. Okay. Where's this cowardice coming from? Okay. So
Mm,
so on liberalism, this is where this cowardice and just materialism and atheism is coming from.
mm,
So I'll quickly explain what it is. So liberalism is this ideology that the individual is the most important thing in the world. This is where the bullshit human rights come in, and where people are free to choose whatever they want, and there's no accountability, no responsibility, and nothing. This is essentially what liberalism is. Okay,
okay.
and from there, once you accept this ideology, that like we're all equal. We're free to do whatever we want, and nobody should be against my freedom and private property and things like this. You turn you this essentially breaks up all social bonds, because social bonds depend on people being able to obey and depend on one another. But when for example, once you introduce liberalism, and you put a liberal in any social situation, you would think all disobedience and all this, they're infringing upon my freedom, and they're infringing upon my rights. So this is how uh, like all the degeneracy is coming from. Now you have children fighting their parents because they're uh, they're blocking them from changing their gender, and then you've got wives fighting against husbands because they're going against my rights. Because see what I mean? This egoism, individualism, where the individual is the most important thing. It destroys all social bonds.
Yeah, I mean, there's a
Social
loss. There's a
merit.
loss of um, there's a loss of understanding of al-urf, right? Like
Yeah,
what's customary, right? Have
yeah,
just basic customary social contracts, so to speak, between people.
for sure.
So that is breaking down a lot, right? I mean,
Okay,
it's breaking down in the modern world pretty fast, right?
okay. And
Um,
when the individual is the most important thing, there's nothing else. Then they, there is no fighting for anything else. It's all about material gain, which what I get the most, and then the fighting spirit completely breaks down, because when you're fighting for a higher cause. You're fighting for God, or you're fighting for a nation, for a race, something like that. But
hmm,
when they're all individual egoists that only care about themselves, uh, uh, they don't care about serving God, or the community. There can
hmm,
be no fighting. It literally can't. You can see Israel, how the soldiers, there's no actually ground fighting because they're scared. They don't actually have allegiance to the nation of Israel.
hmm.
Well, they
Yeah,
only
yeah. I
care
mean,
about
there's a lot.
themselves.
There's a lot of that. Yeah.
They care about their life only.
Hmm, hmm. Well,
And
I mean,
this,
again, going back to that verse that you mentioned, right? That or was it that the one which I mentioned, that those who were told, withhold your hands, restrain your hands, from fighting,
yeah,
and establish salah and give zakah. فلما كتب عليهم القتال إذا فريق منهم يخشون الناس كخشية الله. But then when fighting was prescribed for them, you see that some of them, they fear people as they should fear Allah. Or even with more fear. أو أشد خشية.
yeah,
And they say, oh our Lord, why did you prescribe fighting for us? ربنا لما كتبت علينا القتال لولا أخرتنا إلى أجل قريب. Right?
yeah,
So it is this cowardice and fear, right?
yeah.
Just for the self.
Yeah, this is
And it's dunya, right? Because in the end they said, the response to that is, قُلْ مَتَاعُ الدُّنْيَا قَلِيلٌ, right? Tell them that the enjoyment of this world, it's small anyway, right? Um, and the hereafter is better. وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ لِمَنِ اتَّقَى, right? And the akhirah will be better for those who actually have taqwa. So yeah, it does take being able to see outside of yourself, to be able to actually fight for a cause, right? If, like you said, if it's just the worship of the individual, um, you will never fight for a cause, right? Unless, of course, you end up fighting to be the hero, right? Like that's how the Arabs used to be before, right? So some, they
yeah,
might not like have a cause, but one thing that they would like to fight is to be known as brave, right? So that
yeah,
would be a cause almost outside of themselves, but for themselves. So they don't mind, putting themselves in danger, because in the end they're still fighting for themselves, but they're fighting for sort of like a name, right? A prestige, to
yep,
be seen as a great warrior and a hero and and all the rest of it.
So this is pretty much what happens when you when you turn economics into politics. It now becomes fighting becomes like a cost benefit analysis. It's like, am I going to get more money or am I going to get more material things from fighting here or not? And they just don't understand. That's what the shaitan is trying to do. He's trying to make us focus on this dunya, and like this is the most important thing. And from there, the degeneracy, like once you accept this, then all the degeneracy starts from this. As soon as you put the dunya as in, that's the most important thing.
Yeah. All right, I get you. All right, brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing. Do you have more on that, or was that?
I do.
Yeah, go ahead. Continue.
So this is pretty much what happens. So and you'll see on fighting verses, all of them are on a specific thing, which is deen. Deen is not as in religion in the Qur'anic sense. It's what it actually is the way of life of a people. The way of a life of a mu'min would be that of service to God, being a subject of God, serving God. So this is what the deen is. And taghut would be service to shaitan. Anything outside of serving God would be service to shaitan. Because with this, if you with politics, you're either in one group, you're either here or not here. You're either in Hizbullah, you're in the party of God, or if you do anything else, you're in the party of the shaitan. If you serve anything else, you're in the party of shaitan.
Don't you think there's a middle ground of like people who are neither there nor there?
No, there can't. There literally can't. By definition, you're either here or there. So you might think that the atheists, like someone that doesn't actually care about, is not fully satanic, but he's not he doesn't believe in God, and he's trying to do maybe he does some charity and what have you. But what he actually is, he is in the party of the shaitan. It can't be the case that he's not in the party of God, but he's also not in the party of the shaitan.
No, but why? Why do you think that's like that? Because you can have people who are in neither at the start, right? You don't have to. There can be somebody who's in the party of just the dunya, right? So it's not really trying to, he's not in ibadah to Tawut or Shaitan or anything like that. But they want to, acquire as much of the dunya as they can, or and just pursue life's pleasures. Or even if you take the other side, that some people who their greatest pleasure in life is the pursuit of academic work, right? So that you have people who scientists who spend their whole life just they're like the person stuck in his ivory tower. They don't really care about anything else. They just want to discover this equation, or solve this problem in physics, or this problem in chemistry.
Okay, I'll tell you
why would you say they are in the party of shaitan?
Okay, this is going to be a little bit complex. Yeah, it might be a good segue into one of the other things that I was talking about. I would have wanted to talk about, which is you have to understand first what is good and evil. Okay, so once you understand what is good and evil, you will see why this is the case. So the first thing you ask an atheist is what is good and evil. The answer is he literally can't give you what is good and evil. He has to be a moral relativist. What is he either has to he might have, like his probably his good would be that of personal pleasure, and evil would be that of pain. Okay, but this is not actually, if you understand it this way, you realize this is not the case, because pleasure or pain God gives you. Once you understand the metaphysics, being given wealth, or being given children, or being given power, this is all from God. This is not from your own skill, from your own ability, or what have you. Okay? It might be an inclination. Your capacity, your skill can help get it, but it's essentially from God. Okay.
Okay, yeah. Continue.
So now you have the good and evil dichotomy. Then if that's the case, if money can't be good, if power can't be good, if having children, if pleasure is also not good, then what is good?
Well, I'm not. I mean, I'm not following, to be honest.
No, no, no. I'll explain to you.
Hmm.
Okay. So all these external things, they can't be good. Then the only possible good must be God. God is pure good.
Okay.
Okay.
So, yeah, but again, how does that follow? We've seen, like you said, like
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
a middle ground.
Okay. Yes. So if God, since God is pure good, we our whole purpose to get happiness, to actually do good, is to serve God. Then anything other than that is evil. Anything that is when you're not serving God, evil would be the absence of good. See what I mean?
Well, yeah, I see what you mean, but to be honest, I don't follow. Let me see what's it saying. My browser has lost the connection to what? Your browser has lost connection to your camera. My camera, it doesn't work anyway. So anyway, okay, sorry, it's just some notification popped up. Well, look, I mean, the thing about it, look, when you talk about, we don't even really, when you talk about these sort of like things, Quranically, right? We're not really talking so much as um, um, the good, the evil, these kind of abstractions. Then they've become like more meaningless to me, to be honest. For example, yes, I know, if you try to speak intellectually to an atheist, and like you said, he will tell you, okay, what is good, and he will say good is this. I don't take that seriously because. You can have an atheist, when you speak to him, he will say all of this stuff. You listen from a YouTube channel from another atheist trying to explain the basis for his morality and stuff like that. But that isn't really the basis of his morality, right? Um, every atheist I've come across, and pretty much every atheist you ever meet, the basis of their morality isn't that, right? They didn't get the basis of their morality at the age of 25 or whatever when they watched a YouTube video about some new atheist explaining it. Their morality didn't change just then. That's when they got the morality. They had the morality beforehand, right?
Of
The
course.
morality, everybody has it. It's the fitrah, which is in human being, right?
That's right.
فطرة الله التي فطر الناس عليها. So it doesn't matter if they say, that the reason why they won't steal is because somebody else they are trying to maximize pleasure or something like that. It's nonsense. It's not true, right? In the actual real world, when he's going outside and he has the opportunity to steal something, he doesn't do it because in his heart he knows it's wrong, right? He just knows it's wrong. It has nothing to do with the later intellectual justifications that he made for it, right? And so when he doesn't, steal in that sort of situation, or he doesn't do this or that, or he doesn't murder, or all of these things, right? He's in the end following the fitrah, the guidance which is in his heart, whether he knows it or not, right?
Of course.
This is inside every human being, right? فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا, right? So we have to be careful that sometimes these intellectual discussions that people have about morality, they're just stuff which is in the clouds, right? It's on the table. As soon as they get up from the debate table and they're outside in the real world, they don't think about these things. That's not what their morality. That's not why they act in the world. It's not because they act in the world because they're trying to maximize pleasure or reduce pain. That isn't it at all, right? They walk past a person who's like hungry on the street and they give him some food out of compassion or something. They're not thinking about this moment in that kind of mechanical way. No, it's nonsense. So it's just a smoke screen. So I just don't take this stuff that stuff seriously anymore, to be honest.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, I was just saying this just so I can get into the good and evil dichotomy and that of being in the party of God and party of Shaitan.
Yeah, but so that's what I'm saying. So an atheist who says all of this stuff, right? He doesn't actually act upon it. He doesn't really. It's not real.
yeah,
Okay. So even if you were to say that was evil, this idea that you think, oh, maximizing pleasure and minimizing pain, that's evil. Acting in that way, it's not real, right? That's not why they act. That's not why they do things. They do things out of real morality, which is there, right?
of course.
Which already comes from God. They can't escape from that. They can't jump. As they say in Arabic, right?
Yeah,
لا تستطيع أن تقفز فوق ظلك. You can't jump over your shadow, right? The atheist tries to argue all the time for the basis of his morality being not God, but it's literally he was born with it from God. He can't escape it, right? So it's if he follows it, he's still acting in good, right? If he follows it, that doesn't matter if he says the reason why he did it is because he might think he's even acting um, 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 because of this new atheist philosophy which he got at the age of 20 or 26 or 30. But no, the reason why he acts in a moral way is because he has that goodness inside of his heart, which he has not deformed himself from yet, right? Whereas if he were to act in evil again and again and again, gradually he deforms that, right? رَانَ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ مَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ, right? Covers that up. He covers up that part, and that's what takes him to evil. Right? Isn't any of these kind of philosophical ramblings or that they give, right?
yeah,
In the end, the evil and the good, it comes down to what you do.
yeah. So yeah, so what is good is serving God. What God wills, God obeying God's commands. This is what is good, and evil is the opposite of it.
Yeah, I mean, so for example, God commands to adl, right? To ihsan, to ita'i dhil qurba, right? He commands to justice and to goodness and to giving of near relatives. وينهى عن السوء والفحشاء والمنكر, right? And he prohibits evil and indecency and open objectionable things. So somebody who is acting in accordance with that is acting in accordance with God, right? He is acting in obedience to God, even if he doesn't think he's doing it explicitly, right?
Of course.
So again, when we talk about these sort of things, we have to be careful how we frame them. We have to actually not make a caricature of the other, right? Like having a caricature of an atheist or a caricature even of a believer, right? That believer who does things because God commands them, he is good. That doesn't always hold true, right? There are some
What's
people
that?
there are some people, for example, who will obey, right? Who will obey out of just pure fear, right? Or they have zero actual iman, right? Like the Arab, right? Out of just submission, right? That's not the same as somebody who acts in accordance with some of the virtues which God loves, because they themselves love those virtues, right? Somebody who is generous because he actually loves being generous. Somebody who helps the poor because he loves to help the poor. He has that compassion in them. That person is good, much more good in comparison to the person who does all of these things in obedience, but like they're being driven to it, right? Oh, I have to do this. Okay, fine, I'll do it, right? And then they do it, right? That's somebody you can say is striving. He's striving in the path of Allah. He's striving to be good, right? And if they continue in that, their hearts will lighten up because of it, right? The more it's circular but true. We become what we do. The more generous you are, the more often you give, the more you'll become generous, right? The more often you hold your temper, the more you'll become forbearing. the more often the more often you study, the more you learn, right? But there's a big difference between somebody who does something out of a sense of coercion from God, right? And somebody else who does something really beautiful, ihsan, husna, right? Out of love for what is actually beautiful and good, right? So
Okay. What do you
we
mean
have,
out of coercion from God?
well, like I said, somebody who has come to sort of like be intellectually dominated by understanding that from any field, whether rightly or wrongly, from a scholar or from books or from somewhere in the right way or in the wrong way, they've come to see that they must obey God, right?
Yeah.
They've come to understand God exists, etc. And intellectually they've understood all of that, and so now they're just following the logical path of, okay, then since God exists, since hellfire is real, and I don't want to go into hellfire, all right, what do I have to do?
You're going. You're going. Okay,
And
no, no.
I'm
You're
and
going
I'm going
into
to
a
do this.
topic I was going to talk
Sorry?
about. You're going to a topic where I was going to talk about, but let's keep it going. Keep it going. Hellfire.
Yeah, go ahead then.
So I was just gonna say, but this is gonna open a whole can of worms. I would like you to continue and finish first before I do, because
I was just
we
saying
have
that
another
you
extra
have.
hour.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying, that you have this, again, قُلْ لَمْ تُؤْمِنُوا, like the Arab, right?
Mhm.
And they submitted, right? The Arab used to come to the Prophet saying, we have faith. You don't have faith. The Prophet was told to tell them, you have no faith. You have zero faith. Okay? But say we've submitted. We have submitted, right? Means what we submitted. We're going to do what you say, right? We are in submission, but we're not doing it out of any faith, right? There's no faith that we're doing these things for, okay? And they're told, look, just that's fine, okay, until faith really enters your heart. And in any case, even without any faith in your heart, Allah is not going to take away your, reduce the reward of your deeds in any way. وإن تطيعوا الله ورسوله لا يلتكم من أعمالكم من شيء. Allah's not going to reduce the rewards for your deeds, right? No matter what. So that's what I mean when I say, like, you can have a thing of sort of like feeling coercion, right? Because of it's. I mean, again, it's not really coercion. It's more of an understanding of the reality
Yes.
of the world, right? But I'm just saying that just to put forward the difference between that and somebody else who doesn't believe in God, doesn't believe in the hereafter, doesn't believe any of that, right? But will act the acts of the righteous because he sees them as he not just he sees them as something which is good. He actually loves to do those, right? It's in his heart, in his nature, to do that, right? And you have people in the world like that. You have people who are complete atheists, right? But they strive hard to do good in the world, right? They go out on missions in charity. They go out, you have these doctors that went to Gaza, right? I mean, they're amazing people. There are these doctors. They're not all people who believe in God, right? But they went out and volunteered their time, right? You've got these Doctors Without Borders and people like that who go out and and spend some time actually trying to help an invalid. I just finished reading a book which actually I started a few years ago and only finished the last few chapters a couple of days ago, and I posted about it on Blue Sky. It's called Into the Magic Shop, right? Into the Magic Shop. It's all about this, that mindfulness and stuff, and person visualizing what they want. It's got a lot of that stuff inside it, but it's mostly a biography of this person born to a very poor family who becomes a neurosurgeon, and just his life journey, right? He learns that visualization practice and meditation from some magic shop that he goes and visits, right? And then this guy, ends up doing a lot. He becomes a huge he becomes a millionaire, and then there was the dot-com crash, and he loses all his money, and then he has the opportunity to get some of it back because he pledged some of it to charities. And so his lawyers were telling me, look, you're broke now. You should keep that money. You don't have to give it to the charity. But he said, no, I gave them my word, and I'm going to give them that charity. And he gave it up. It was millions, and he gave it up. He became broke, but he gave up his fortune to his charity, to the charity which he had chosen to give to before he became broke, right? Before he lost his millions, And later on, he volunteered in this place to uplift the community. Then he set up this research center for compassion and empathy, and but he's an atheist, right?
Yeah.
He's an atheist, right?
Yeah.
Has absolutely no belief in God or the next life or anything like that. But he has come to recognize the true, the virtues, right? Because again, it's part of our fitrah, right? It's part of the ruh that Allah has put inside us. Anyway, I went on a bit too long there, but so you were going to say anyway. You're continuing.
Yeah. So yeah, what I would like to say is the two categories that you've just given me. There's no difference between the two. The person that understands the reality of being mankind. Your whole point, your whole purpose in life is to you're a subject of God. You serve God, and that of the atheist that serves God unintentionally. He doesn't understand that he's serving God, and that's how he's getting happiness from these things.
Yeah. You can say exactly
There's
that.
no
I mean, again,
difference
because in the end, it still comes down to acting in faith, right? Because
Yes.
I do believe that in the end, when the Quran talks about الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات, it doesn't say الذين آمنوا بالله وعملوا الصالحات. Just you have to have faith sometimes. Just even just the faith in the good deeds themselves, because nobody will be able to do these kind of actions without some hope, some faith that they matter, right? That it matters. What you've done here matters. That it's going to make a difference, even if you're just thinking about it in terms of this world. That that your compassion is going to actually do something to the recipient of your compassion, right? If you thought that it would do nothing, you just wouldn't act. But yeah, so I get what you're saying now. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, our whole being, our whole purpose, and what gives us happiness is when we are serving God's commands. All right.
Yeah.
And that which is evil is the opposite of that. When we're not serving God's commands, this is where unhappiness comes from, and this is where what evil is. All right.
Yeah.
So when you're not in the party of God, when you're not in the party of God and you're not serving God, the only logical conclusion is that you're serving evil. And when you're serving evil, you're serving the shaitan. You're in the party of shaitan.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying now in terms of what we were just discussing.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
Dichotomy, you're either in the party of God or you're in the party of shaitan. How that comes from is from the dichotomy of good and evil. Because there can't be anything else that is good if you think about it. There's nothing else that can be good except God. That's it. Right?
Okay, yeah.
To be honest, I forgot. I forgot. We kind of went down a little. I forgot why.
Forgot the train of thought, huh? Yeah. It's normal.
Well,
let me just in the meantime. Sometimes changing things helps us. Let me just have a look at some. There's a couple of comments here which I wanted to answer.
Yeah, I guess we can move on from politics to the second thing after the comments.
Let's see, what's this? The ruh is the driver, the body is a car, and the mind or brain is the steering wheel. The driver is asleep. The lies from the four sides, wings from the four windows.
This is pacifism.
No, I don't think this one. I don't think that's pacifism. He's talking about the ruh. What resource do you recommend for the study of hadith? I have no idea, to be honest. What would I recommend for the study of hadith? There's nothing really I can recommend, to be honest. There's not that much which is done which is critical. Probably the best would be just the modern academic study of hadith, right? The isnad kam method and a few other things, but you just have to basically, if you want to study hadith, just start from the beginning, take the traditional route as well, and keep your eyes open. Right? Just don't accept everything blindly. Here it is. Isn't Fajr from the Nahar if one of the two ends of the day? So this is come from the verse, you're asking about the verse Tarafay Nahar, right? The Salah is to be done in the two halves of the day, right? Tarafay Nahar wa Zulafan min al-layl. I mean, I still don't think that Fajr is going to be from that, right? But it is, this is an interesting one. Why would Fajr be considered part of that? I don't know. I mean, the verse which is about the prayer times that the Prophet was taught, the two halves of the day, I would say, Tarafayn Nahar, two halves of the day. So the beginning half of the day and the last half of the day, right? So before noon and afternoon, and then at night, right? So from that verse, technically, Fajr, the first prayer, if you're going to follow that verse, should be after sunrise, right? Should be after sunrise. But Fajr is maybe it's just its own one, because remember that the Prophet prayed 5 times a day. He did the 5 prayers. So it isn't following that verse. The normal 5 prayers are not following that verse exactly. They're within it, but they're not conversant. Assalamu alaikum, rather than AI models. Assalamu alaikum. With the rise of smarter new AI models, what do you think about AI computing through the Quran to find relations, meanings? I don't know, to be honest. I mean, I agree with that. I mean, AI is a misnomer, right? There's nothing really intelligent about AI. They're just language models at this point. I don't think we've even taken the first step towards really, truly intelligent AI. These are all just language models. They're not more than that. So in that kind of way, maybe there can be more efficient search engines. But I think people are putting way too much trust in AI. You have people now, asking ChatGPT certain questions about Islam and stuff. And it's not ChatGPT which is answering, of course. It's just basically, taking all of the language which it's been fed and analyzing it to get answers from that. So depending on what it's been fed, that's how the answer will come out. There's nothing intelligent about it. And it often makes a mistake. I mean, I commented something about that recently on Reddit, where just recently a colleague of mine, there was this chemistry problem, which she tried to answer using ChatGPT. It was basically trying to calculate the cell potential of an electrolytic cell. And she sent it to me. She said, look, I'm not sure about this answer. And the answer was wrong. The answer was wrong that ChatGPT was giving. So I went on it and I spent about 3 hours trying to convince ChatGPT to do it the right way, right? And eventually I did, right? So eventually I was able to change its answer, right? And that happens a lot, right? ChatGPT can give you a wrong answer on something, and you can argue against it, and then convince it of the right answer, and then it will change that for everybody in the world. Now, the thing about it is you can actually do the opposite. You can get the answer could be correct, right? And then you convince it of a wrong answer, and then it will change that for everybody in the world as well. So it doesn't know the difference. It doesn't know the difference. It's not really intelligent. So I don't think they're going to be much smarter, to be honest. They can't do much apart from being very good search engines, as far as I can see. Walayat al-faqih was a mistake. I can see what you've been thinking about, bro. So everybody, Nico. Oh my God, Assalamu alaikum. I need to get in touch with, if this is who I think it is. Okay, I need to check out, because I used to have a Telegram group, which unfortunately I lost my Telegram account, and I haven't been able to get it back. Have you memorized the Quran completely? No, I did not memorize Quran completely. There's not much point in memorizing the Quran completely. I mean, you can. It's much easier when you're younger as well. I mean, I've memorized a good portion of it, but then I stopped trying to actually to memorize it. It's a strange thing, right? With people trying to memorize the Quran, hifz, right? But Allah is the one who has said He is going to hifz it, right, to protect it, and He's commanded us to ponder it. So I spend the time that I would have spent practicing or trying to memorize verses, I would now rather spend actually just reading and contemplating. I would love to have a conversation with the guest you have. Can he share his Instagram ID? Hey, that's for you, my friend. What's your name, bro, by the way? I didn't get your name. God's faithful.
You can call me Adam.
Adam. Okay, yeah. So this is for you. Oh, you answered. Okay, cool. But can you show your Instagram? Let me see the last thing here. Do you believe there are any mutawatir hadith containing any ahkam that are not mentioned in the Quran? I haven't thought about that. I mean, the mutawatir hadith are just very, very few. I don't think there are very, very few. I don't think there are any which are ahkam. There's of course mutawatir, quote unquote, sunnahs, right? Like the 5 daily prayers, but they're not ahkam, right? This was just how the Prophet prayed, and he told people pray. Who asked him? I think that the hadith about sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli, pray as you see me pray, is atomized, right? There's a context around it, which is, who's trying to call me there? Which is basically people asked him, how should we pray? And he just said, okay, pray as you see me pray, right? He didn't come out and just tell them, hey, you have to pray the way I pray. But that's one of the issues of hadith. We don't have the full context of hadith. We just have these little bits of it. Is Adam the first human being according to the Quran? I suppose it doesn't matter if he's the first human being. What matters is that he's the father of all of humanity right now, right? Let's say he wasn't, and yet if he's the first, if he's the common ancestor to all of us, then I suppose that's good enough, isn't it? But I don't know. Brother, what is your opinion regarding Surah Al-Ikhlas, where Allah has 2 times the word Ahad? Allah is Wahid, and Ahad mean anyone? I'm not sure what that means. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. So you're saying that the last Ahad and the first Ahad, that does anybody understand what this means? What is your opinion regarding Surah Al-Ikhlas, where Allah uses 2 times the word Ahad? If Allah is Al-Wahid, and Ahad means anyone. Oh, okay, I see what you mean. No, right, so that's just, it's like here, you said, anyone, right? The word anyone in English, the one in anyone, doesn't mean the number one, does it? Right? So, قل هو الله أحد, is saying Allah is Ahad, and لم يكن له كفوا أحد, is just saying that there's no other person, no other one Ahad who is similar to him. So I think you're overthinking, you're overanalyzing there. I think you're overanalyzing a little bit too much. Wahid means one, yes. Ahad sort of means the difference between Wahid and what's the difference between Wahid and Ahad, right? So Wahid is literally the number one, right? Because, and then you can have 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. But the word Ahad is its own sort of like number, right? So it's almost like saying single in English, right? Is there a word which is two? Well, I suppose you can say couple, right? So you have single in English and then you have couple, right? But what I'm trying to get across is that wahid is the number sequence. Wahid, number one. From this number sequence of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ahad isn't in a number sequence. Ahad isn't in a number sequence, right? So ahad sort of just means just one, sort of indivisible, one where there's not going to be a second, right? That's what I'd say about that. Nowadays, I no longer feel tired in Taraweeh. I love listening to the Quran, the message to humanity thing. I'm going to be remembered. Come on. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad for that. I mean, I pray the Taraweeh. I know some people are against it. And even to be honest, I mean, it is in the end. The issue of the Taraweeh is that it was, I think it's less so now, but I remember back before, there was a huge amount of emphasis on it, and people were made to feel, well, not people were made, but some people would feel bad, guilty for not going. That's probably true in some parts of the world now. But it was a good bid'ah that, one of the good things that Umar ibn al-Khattab set up. Because, like you said, there are some people that will go through the whole year not hearing the Quran, and they will only hear it in Ramadan, right? So it's actually a good thing. I mean, Ali ibn Abi Talib, he tried to sort of like discourage it, but it was sort of likely, right? He sort of like likely tried to discourage it, because you don't want to make something like this into a burden to people. But I don't think people now take it on board as a burden. There are people who go to it cheerfully and happily, and I don't think it's being as big a burden as, well, maybe in some places it is. I know, for example, in some places in Pakistan, there are places where it really is a burden. So maybe on balance, maybe it wasn't such a good thing. But if you're a just normal, common sense, rational person, with the Tarawih being there in Ramadan, it's actually a great blessing that you can actually go to, right? And end up listening to the whole Quran, and being in that environment of everybody else praying. It's a very good thing. Umar al-Khattab, in my view, of course, he had good things and not so good things, right? Generally, he was a positive for the Ummah, because at that time, because he was a very strong person who the hypocrites were afraid of, right? So they never overstepped themselves with him around, because he was a bit wild. He would just take something and start beating them, right? And the other day I was just reading a story of somebody, of a person who got beat by the son of Amr ibn al-As in Egypt, right? And then when that person asked the Amr ibn al-As's father, who was the governor of Egypt, he asked him for some justice. Amr ibn al-As put him in prison for a while. So then the next Hajj, this individual, he went to Hajj, and then he went to Medina, and he came to complain to Umar about that, and he told him this is what happened. And he said, okay, do you have any proof of that? He said, ask anybody who came on Hajj from Egypt, and they will tell you. And he asked, and he found that to be true. So then he called up Amr ibn al-As and his son. First of all, he called up his son, and then he gave him a whip, the other guy a whip, and he told him beat him. and he beat him, and he said, and then he stopped, and he said, why are you stopping? Beat him some more. And the guys kept beating him. Said, and then Umar told him, look, I would never have stopped you from beating him however much you wanted. So it wasn't like, okay, how many times did he beat you? You beat him the same amount. No, Umar was like, no, beat him as much as you want. And then he called his father, right? And Umar ibn Khattab told him to beat Amr ibn al-As, right, the father. And the guy was like, but Umar, he didn't beat me. He just put me in prison. And Umar told him, well, you know what? If you had taken the whip and beaten him, I wouldn't have stopped you until you'd beaten him up as much as you wanted. So that was Umar, right? So he was a wild cannon kind of person, and but he kept the hypocrites in line because of that. So that's what I've got to say on that. Is it true that Uthman bin Affan was much worse than Umar and Abu Bakr since he put his family in power? Yeah, I would definitely say he was the beginning of a lot of the trouble, right? The nepotism and his weakness and his preferential treatment for Banu Umayyah, who are among the worst of the people in the Jahiliyyah and in Islam. That was the beginning of the downfall for a lot of things. And he wasn't innocent from having people beaten and stuff like that as well. Look why did Ammar ibn Yasir, look why did Abu Dhar al-Ghafari, and anyway, that's all history. Okay, so do you want to continue?
Yeah, sure.
Brother
Okay.
Adam, yes?
So I think this is a good opportunity, since we've already talked about good and evil, the dichotomy between them. And you also mentioned it when you were talking about the atheists and the mu'mineen. So I'll tell you something that is pretty interesting. That when I came to it, I realized this is actually a pretty super, like a pretty enlightening conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
Is that heaven and hell are neither good nor evil. Heaven and hell are actually indifferent. They themselves are not something that they're simply a consequence of your actions. It's not what you actually strive for, per se.
Mm-hmm.
I know it might sound a little bit weird.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah.
Why that is the case is since God is pure good, and when you're serving God, when you're subject of God, this is your happiness. This is where your good is. So heaven in of itself is simply a shelter, and hell is also a shelter, a dar. You might have wondered why did God say that heaven and hell are dar? Well, are they not something good? Not necessarily. They're simply a place where a shelter for righteous people, for heaven, and a shelter for the wrongdoing people, the people that are evil or that have done evil. Do you understand what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Which so you're referring when it comes? I remember. I can think of my top of my head all of the verses where, where where Jannah is called a dar, right? So you've got Dar al Khuld, right? Dar al Muqamati, Dar al Qarar, right? Dar al Salam. You've got all of these ones. But which ones are when it's mentioned of hell? I think Dar al Bawar, right?
Yeah.
لم تر الذين بدلوا نعمة. No, but that's not anything.
No, no.
وأحلوا قومهم دار البوار. No, that's not one of them.
No.
So where's hellfire called a dar?
No, I wouldn't. I don't think it's dar. I think it's mathwa. What I remember. إن النار هي المثوى.
Yeah, there's the مثوى.
أم لم تصبروا فلا يخفف العذاب أو something like that.
مثواكم, yes. فالنار مثواكم.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So heaven and hell are shelters. They're not actually something good or evil. And this is why I think once you understand this, you realize you can't your true purpose. Because when people say, when I go to heaven, what am I going to do in heaven? Is like, this is pretty lame. What they don't understand is that heaven is not the good. Heaven is not what you actually are looking for. What you're striving for is God. Wajhillah. Not necessarily heaven. Heaven is simply the consequence of your striving, your action.
Yeah.
And same thing for hell. Hell is not necessarily an evil. Like when you might be in pain and suffering, but it's not actually it's not evil in of itself. It's simply a consequence of your actions. And doing evil is for your soul, not because you're trying to avoid hell. That's not the issue. Is that you're going against your own nature, your own purpose. Hell is simply a consequence, a punishment for what you've done. That's all. So when people say, "Oh, how can these people live in hellfire forever?" What have you? Isn't that cruel, or is that what? They don't understand that pain and suffering is not an evil. They have the same liberal, progressive ideology of saying that pain is evil and pleasure is good. See the toxicity. See.
Well, I mean, I understand the whole issue with eternal punishment, right? Because the issue isn't really about it being evil or not. The issue is about trying to equate the finite sins and say the finite sins deserve an eternal punishment. Now, for me personally, I think that the problem with that is the whole concept of that there's going to be an eternal, infinite punishment. I've done streams on this before, and I've said that what I personally think is that the hereafter is going to be a world of timelessness. Right? When we say khalidina fiha, it's not talking about forever in terms of you'll be. It's a cumulative punishment that will go on forever, right? I think it's a world of timelessness. So even if you want to say eternal, right, I would say that if hellfire is eternal, the punishment in it is not going to be infinite, right? Sure. That's the issue that people have. They just want to, and of course the problem is that there's a focus on some verses of the Quran which are about a world which is yet to come, right? And allowing that to overtake the clear, explicit verses where God is saying that He will not be unjust to anybody, even a small amount, right? So the most I'm willing to accept from people who make these arguments about hellfire is for them to say that the Quran is contradictory. If you want to say the Quran is contradictory in that kind of way, okay, fine. You can say that it's contradictory to say that God will be just, right, and will not punish people more than their deeds, and at the same time they will be in hell forever. Okay, fine. You want to put it that way, and I will say yes. You can say it's contradictory, but I'm not going to let you choose one over the other and say, okay, so now God is evil because He's going to do it. No, you either say it's contradictory, or that's it. But you can't go beyond that and now choose one over the other, right?
Of course.
Right? You can't say that now, okay, because there's eternal hell, God has been unjust. Well, now you're picking one of the contradictions, right? If you're going to say it's contradictory, stay with that. That means you're not allowed to pick one or the other, right? You're not allowed to pick that God is going to be just, and you're not allowed to pick that God is going to be unjust. You can just say it's contradictory and stop there.
Of course.
Okay, but again, for me, of course, I don't. I think that they're entirely reconcilable. That you can have If you understand Khalidina fiha, it can be a world of timelessness. Then you don't have to have this idea that it's going to be, forever kind of thing. The only real eternal is God. The only real eternal is God. And even then, it's not really accurate to say God is eternal, because then if you say God is eternal, you're saying that the time is going to exist forever, and that God is within time, existing for however long time exists, right? But anyway, yeah,
Okay, yeah, I think this is outside of our comprehension.
yeah,
Yeah, but kind of the main point I was trying to say is that heaven and hell are neutral. They're indifferent. They're simply the consequences of your actions in this life, and hell and heaven themselves. They're not necessarily good. Pleasure is the pleasure of being in the shelter of heaven is not necessarily the good. God is the good, and hell, the pain and suffering that you might experience in hell, is not necessarily evil either. What is evil is not serving your purpose, which is أن تعبدون إن ما خلقنا الجن والإنس إلا يعبدون.
Well, again, so what you're saying is basically just what one verse says, which is that when speaking about both heaven and hell, that every soul will get what it earns, right? So, like you said,
Yeah.
it's just a consequence of your actions, that kind of way. But I've gone a bit further from that when I did that God's End Game video essay, where I've said, look, I don't think heaven. I mean, hell is sort of like the end of the road for the people who are not worthy, right? But we're in this world to be tested, right? And so when I did that God's Endgame video, I was talking about how, well, if you continue that thought, when people are in a world when people are being tested for something, right? It means that those virtues or those qualities for which they are being tested, they're going to be put to use. So I think that the journey of the human being is not going to end in heaven, right? And so when you said that heaven is just a home or a place of abode, that's exactly how I see it. That
It will continue.
in the future, that's where we're going to be, where humanity, those who pass this world, who show themselves, people of taqwa, they are going to be in Jannah, but they're going to
There'll be
be
another purpose,
there's going to be another purpose beyond that, right?
and same for hell. Same for
And
the
that's
people in
just
hell.
that's just going to be. Although I think the people of hell are going to be. I'm not going to be. Not going to. I mean,
Maybe.
what purpose are they going to serve? Right. I think that the people in hell are going to be. Again, I did that video about how if you put it in terms of a hierarchy of life, of being alive, of aliveness, the people are in hell are almost not alive, right? So Allah talks about the life of this world, and He talks about the people in Jannah, darul akhirah اللي هي الحيوان, that those people are really alive, right? That's full of life. And then the people in hell, لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا. They're neither alive nor dead, right? لا يقضى عليهم فيموتون فيها فيموتون. And so you have these verses which seem to indicate that kind of idea, that if you put the people in hell are going to be less alive than we are now here. But in the end, again, God is putting us in this world to test us, right? And to test us for certain virtues. And you have to really be a really, evil person to end up in hell. And so what purpose will Allah have for you, for those people? So they're sort of like going to hell, and I don't think anybody who goes in hell leaves, right? So, that's another thing which I don't accept from the traditional Islam. Nobody who goes in hell actually leaves. Okay, so are they going to serve another purpose? Maybe. I never thought about that, to be honest. The people in hell are going to have another purpose later, but what purpose are they going to be?
I mean,
God's going to
maybe if you think,
send them out to be an affliction to people, to test others by them. I don't know.
I
They'll be
don't
the
know. Maybe
shayateen.
if you think about life's purpose, as in right now, of course, serving God, and through that we attain purity, zakah. And hell as in a more extreme version of life, that is for people that haven't passed life, they would still be able to attain zakah, but with much more pain and suffering. But I don't know. I think I
But
don't think
I
that's
was
evidence.
I was saying the opposite though. I was saying that in hell, the people have less life, not more
Yeah.
extreme version of life. So
No,
they're
no, no.
less
Yeah,
alive.
they have less
Um,
life.
they're less alive. So that's how I see it. I mean, I've taken some cues from NDEs and near death experiences and that sort of stuff. People who have those, they talk about how during their NDE experiences they felt truly alive, right? That felt like being alive. And when they came back to this world, this feels like a dream, right? It feels like it's not real almost, right? Um, and also that's where I got the idea that the next world is going to be one of timelessness, because they explain that they had these experiences where they can explain this happened and this happened and this happened, and it will sound like that's what it is, but um, what really was like was it was timeless. There was no time. There was no concept of time um, while they were having those experiences.
Yes. Super interesting. Okay. Go on a popular topic, which is the problem of evil. Have you heard of it before? It's
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
how can God be ambivalent and or all good, and also at the same time allow
All
evil to happen?
powerful and all good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, once you understand what good and evil is, you can easily answer this question. But it turns, once you answer it, it turns to an even more interesting question that I don't think we have the knowledge of. I think that's in the unseen. Since good is serving God, and evil is the opposite of that, opposite of good, then then the problem with evil essentially is a problem of how come we have free will, because evil comes from free will, and free will is the choice to be able to either serve God or to serve something else. فَمَنْ تَبِعَ اللَّهَ like I think it was on something on. Wait, I might get the verse. ومن اتبع من اتبع الله maybe هم الفائزون، أو من اتبع الطاغوت فأولئك الذين خسروا أنفسهم. So
No, I
something
don't
like
think
this. I remember. I think it's in Surah Al-Ahzab. I don't know, but the question, well, the problem of evil essentially boils down to free will,
Yeah.
and the amana, and
Yeah, I agree.
there's a higher value why God has chosen for there to be free will above that of evil. Like that there's something in the divine governance that makes free will like really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the whole thing of um, the problem with evil, it doesn't really make sense to apply to the Islamic context. I don't think,
Hmm.
because what the problem of evil assumes that there's no afterlife, right? I mean, that's one of the reasons why that iman billahi wal yawm al akhir comes up the most, right? To have faith in God
That's
and
also
in the hereafter, right?
that's also
Because any if you don't have any if there wasn't going to be a hereafter, there wasn't going to be redress from God, there wasn't going to be a judgment day, there wasn't going. If these things were not going to happen, then the problem of evil holds true, right? Then the problem of evil holds true. That God is all good and He's all powerful, but He's allowing these things to happen, right? But what we
no,
have
that's
in the
not
Quran is
that's not like
وَيُمَتِّعُهُم, right? فَسَوْفَ يَعْلَمُونَ, right? The evil happens, but it's only for a time. It's not for long, right? And it's going to be redressed. It's going to be redressed. Um, So that's the issue. The issue of what I see, the issue of the problem of evil, is that it's discussing God in almost an atheist framework of this world. It's
That's right.
people looking at this world, thinking that seeing an atheistic world, and then bringing God into this atheistic world, and saying, "Aha, you can't exist because of the evil around." Well, you're imagining God in your world. You're imagining God in in your world that you're creating. You're not looking at the real
You're right.
world as the theist sees it, right? As well, at least the theist who believes in the hereafter, right? You're
No,
not
but
you're
it
not
still
looking
applies.
at. Sorry.
It still applies though. So what they could argue, even if there is, yes, there's an hereafter, but God could have just made everything follow God's will and not swerve. But that's the thing. The problem with evil is a question of why did God, or how come God has given us free will?
No,
Why
I think
not?
I think I think I think the problem with evil assumes that that free will exists, right? I don't think it's when people argue about the problem of evil, they don't put it in terms of of um, of of rejecting free will. They put it in terms of, okay, yes, this
That's right.
free will causes evil, but God would stop it, right? Would
Yeah,
act immediately,
yeah.
almost, right? That God would prevent it from happening, right? So I don't think they try to discount free will. They still want to keep free will and discuss the problem of evil.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's impossible. You can't have
Hmm.
free will without evil. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, you can if you want to put it in the way of example, like for example, the angels. People think the angels don't have free will. The angels do have free will, but they are made to be have no inclinations um, to not to disobey God, right? So that's not the same thing. They're not given any um, base natures or anything like that, right? It's like saying there's somebody who has, I don't know, to use a crude example. Let's say somebody who has sexual impotency, right? Um, that person still has free will, right? But they haven't been given this desire, which could cause them to sin in that kind of way, right? So they're not having free will um, is separate from having different desires, right? So God could have created us like pure spirits. Okay, we could have free will, but we'd have no pull to anything which is lowly, right? We'd have no desires for like money or desires to harm anybody or anything like that. But we'd still have free will in terms from within the desires that we do have.
Oh, think about that. Well, would that be free will though?
Yeah, it would be. I mean, I mean, when you say like free, like it'll be like saying to us now, okay, I don't have free will because I can't fly. Well, no, Allah hasn't given us the ability to fly,
No, no, no,
right?
no, no. I'm saying, would you have free will if if it is impossible for you to do evil? That doesn't look like you have free will. If
Yeah,
you don't
because
have,
no, you have free will, not because it's impossible for you to do evil, but you have no inclination to do it, right? You have free will because you can still choose between all the good. So, for example, let's say we didn't have any of the desires to uh, do any of the evils, right? Well, there's still a bunch of different good things that we can choose between them. We can freely choose. Somebody could freely choose to be a person of charity. Somebody else could be a person of invention and knowledge and seeking knowledge. Somebody else could be an explorer. Somebody else could be, a social worker, a doctor. There's a huge array of things that we can freely choose by free will, right? And they can all be good, right? It doesn't have to be Because when you talk about free will, what are you talking about? You're just talking about the ability to choose, right?
Yeah, the
It's not.
ability
It's
to
it's
choose it.
not about. It's not about what choices are available. That's different, right? What choices are available isn't part of free will. Right? Free will is just the ability to be able to choose freely between one option or the other option, right? But what options are in front of you, that doesn't change free will, right? That doesn't. Even if you say you can even put it down to just one thing. If you only have one option, right? You don't have a second option. That doesn't mean you don't have free will. It just means you don't have the options. The option's not there, but you can still have free will. You're not able to show your free will because you don't have any other options. But you still have the free will, right?
That's interesting.
So you can have it that way, right? It's like
So
somebody being given, you go into a buffet and there's only one food choice. Okay, does that mean you don't have free will? No, you still have free will. Okay, we just now you don't have any options, right? And then let's say now you have two options. Okay, now you can show your free will by, okay, I'm going to choose this or this. And then if you have 100 options, you have more opportunity to exercise your free will. But your free will has not changed in any of those situations, right? You still have the volition to be able to choose, which is basically what free will is, right? So that's how I think it comes down to. So that's why the problem of evil isn't so much, I think, issue of 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 free will, because the way it's put up, I think, from what I remember, I mean, I don't look at this philosophical stuff as much as I used to, but from what I remember, the way it's put up, it's not. It's accepting that there is free will, but then just asking, okay, yes, God created there is free will. We know we have free will, but if God existed, right, there still should not be evil in this world because He would put a stop to it. Um, if He was all good and if He was all powerful, right? Yeah.
but how? Okay, okay. I see what you mean. I see what you mean. But how would it be the case? Let's say but you've actually, I think you have done a really great description of what an angel could be. But how can it be the case that you have free will when all the options you have are options of only serving God or of only doing good? How would that be free will when you can't disobey God, and you wouldn't like
because you have
all the
because you
choices?
have because again, the free will is just about the volition to be able to choose, right? I think that's a separate issue um, from the options, right? So for example, we don't have the option to receive inspiration from God and reject it. We can't do that sin, right? We don't. Does that mean we have less free will? No, right? We don't have the option because we are not being sent angels or being made messengers from God, right? So God is not revealing wahi to us, right? So we can and then exercise free will in rejecting that. Okay, that's one area that we can't disobey God in, right? Does that mean we have less free will? No,
No,
I don't think that means we have less free will. We have exactly the same free will, exactly the same free will that the prophets have, right?
I
Um,
guess, is that
but the
what a
prophet,
fitna is?
huh?
Is that what a fitna is? Having
Yeah, I mean,
more choice?
I suppose maybe you could think of it that way. I mean, I've never thought it in that way, but you could say that that
You get the
one way
choice
that you can
between
talk
evil.
about, yeah, that removing all the fitna, right? Removing all fitna doesn't mean you don't have free will, right? If you were to take all fitna away, that doesn't mean you don't have free will, right? But I'm just talking about if you zero down into what free will is, it's just your volition. You're into it inside yourself that you have the ability to choose, right?
Mm.
That doesn't change, right? If you don't find in yourself a desire to do this sin or that sin or that sin, right? If certain options are not there for you because you have no desire for them, that doesn't mean you don't have free will, right? A person who's born blind, they can't commit sins of looking, right? They can't look at the haram. That doesn't mean they don't have free will. They still have exactly the same free will. There's just that option is just not there, right? There are certain, again, there are things that we are just by virtue of our physical being, our physical creation. We don't have free will in it because we are constrained by that our physicality. Okay, we can't fly, right? You know, if you take a comic book example, if somebody was like had superpowers, right? Now there's extra sins that you can do with your superpowers, right? Use your heat vision to like kill somebody, or spy on somebody with your X-ray vision or whatever that is, right? But somebody having those options doesn't mean they now have more free will any more than us not having them means we have less free will. That's how I would see it.
So is this very interesting? So this this would be exactly what fitna is, and this is what exactly would be لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. A person's soul's capacity, he would be given fitnas that or options that he has the capacity of avoiding the evil, but then he has the free will to choose those options.
Well, I mean, for that verse, when it comes to the taklif, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها, it's talking about taklif. I don't think it's talking about like people sometimes take that verse to mean, oh, you will never receive any trial in your life which you can't overcome. No, I don't think that's what it means. That's just talking about the taklif. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها, right? That God is not imposing upon you any duties, any obligations, except the obligations that you can complete, can do, right? That doesn't mean you can't run through life with things which can really break you. That happens to people, right? Quite often. There are people that go through some really bad tragedies, some really bad torture, some really bad whatever it is, right? And it breaks their minds, right? They go crazy, right? Does that mean that verse is now false? No, right? It's because that verse is not talking about that. It's not talking about that in your life nothing will happen to you. No, that's when we're talking about free will. That's one of the things with free will. Somebody could do something to you which is far beyond your ability to take it, right? It could really something that could really damage you, and God will of course be very understanding for that. But that can happen. I mean, look, it's been happening in Gaza now. You see those people, those prisoners coming out from Israeli jail with their eyes bulging, and unimaginable tortures they've gone through there, right? And they come out. I don't think many of them are going to be normal, right? And then they're psychologically damaged, trauma for the rest of their lives, all of these things, right? When you say La yukallifu Allahu nafsin, that God is not going to give you a trial greater than you can bear. Okay, well, and what does that mean? Does that mean that I will just live? That Allah will give me a trial that's difficult enough, and I will live? But what kind of living is it, right? Or does it mean that God will not give you a trial that you'll not be able every trial that will come to you, you'll be able to bear it, so that when you come out the other side, you are completely fine, no trauma, no mental breaks, nothing, and you're fine? Does that mean no? Right? So that verse is very, very misunderstood. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. It's talking about taklif. It's talking about what God Himself
it's not talking about consequences. It's talking about
no. It's talking about God Himself. No, it's talking about what God Himself is going to be imposing upon you, right? What He wants you to do, the taklif, what He commands you to do. So I'm talking about what other people do to you, right? This is part of the thing where people make جعلوا فتنة الناس كعذاب الله. They make the fitna, the persecution of people, to be like a punishment of Allah, and they put down Allah. Or why did Allah allow this to happen to me? No, Allah didn't do it to you. It was other people who did it to you, right? And then you say that, don't worry, God will not put you onto this trial because He knows you can take it. No, God didn't put you into this trial, right? we should not. We have to be very careful with taking the sins and the oppression and the persecution that people do to each other and saying that that's from God, right? That's almost, again, it's almost going back to the problem of evil that we mentioned, right? You were saying, the problem of evil is there because we have free will, right? So you can't have it that way and at the same time say that these things which God is causing to happen, these things which happen to you, are from God when really these are evil from the free will of other people, right? You can't unite those two things.
I'll probably, I'm thinking about it. I'll probably rewatch the YouTube video on this,
Yeah.
reflect upon this a little.
Yeah, I mean that's just there's something that I mean it's because we've had this thing put into us from, it's in our heritage, right? The whole qadar, right? That everything that happens is by God's decree and predestination and stuff like that. And this is all, it comes from the irja, and it's from the it's from the corruptions of the deen, the early corruptions of the deen, right? From the sixth pillar of Islam, right? The six pillars of iman, of faith, are what? Believe in God, the angels, His books, the messengers, the last day, and the qadr, predestination. No, the predestination thing is not in the Quran. It's not from the list of the things which is mentioned in the Quran. When the Quran mentions وَيَكْفُرْ بِاللَّهِ وَمَلَائِكَتِهِ وَكُتُبِهِ وَرُسُلِهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. That's it. There's no وَالْقَدَرْ خَيْرِهِ وَشَرِّهِ مِنَ اللَّهِ. There's qadr, and the good and the bad are all from Allah. No, this is something which the Umayyads are added later on, right? The hadith of Jibreel, right? The hadith of Jibreel, yes, which was the whole thing that Jibreel came and asked the Prophet, what is Islam, what is Iman, what is Ihsan? You know the hadith, right? Which
No.
is, huh?
No,
You're not sure about that. All right. Okay. Well, it's the main hadith upon which almost the whole of Islam is basically structured around it, right? That this is Islam, this is Iman, and this is Ihsan. And the thing about this hadith is when you research it, it comes from the Umayyad governor of Basra, right? Who said he got it from Ibn Umar, right? And he got it because he wanted to argue against people who were denying qadr. So this hadith comes up for him to be able to shoot down those people who are denying qadr. And the people were denying qadr because they were denying that God chose the rulers, right? Because that's how this is what it came down to, right? That the Umayyads were putting it that way, that God chose the rulers, right? That how dare you question God's choice, right?
okay. But how can you? Okay, wait, pause. But then how can you actually deny qadar when qadar is clearly shown in the Quran with the prophets, to be more specific?
How like what?
إنك على قدر يا موسى.
No, جئت على قدر يا موسى, right?
جئت على قدر.
Yeah, جئت على قدر يا موسى, right? So this is from the planning of Allah, right? So the planning of Allah, right? When you say qadr, right, actually the main meaning of qadr is a measure, right? When you measure something out, right? So if you're able to like plan something out, right? That's very different. You measure out all the factors, okay, then a nudge over here, send what's her name, Musa, tell this to Musa's mother, and Musa's mother, sends his sister, and then she, ends up being in the thing of Fir'aun. There's a lot of these things which happen, right, where God intervenes, right? But it's not qadar, right? Qadar would mean the idea that your choices which you made, right, were not actually your choices, but God predestined you to make those choices, right? That every choice that you make isn't really your choice. Again, we're going back to free will.
No, I think this is the error.
Sorry?
I think the error. Okay, I think why you deny qadr, you're making a conflation. You're adding two things into one,
Okay, go on,
which
explain.
is that of the soul and that of the external world. The external world might be predestined, but the soul's actions and soul's choices is not predestined.
But the outside world, right? There are other souls in the outside world who are making choices,
Yes,
right? There
yes,
are, so you if you're at home, right, and with your family, and then somebody breaks into your house and kills a family member of yours, and they die, okay, are you going to say it was Allah's qadr that he would die at that time?
yes.
No, but the person chose
No,
it,
no.
right?
Yes, he chose it. Yes,
Yeah, so the person could
but
have
the
chosen to kill
consequences.
you,
No, no, no.
to break in there. No, but the person's coming in to choose to bring in there. Now you're saying no, he didn't choose it. It was Allah's
No, no,
qadr
no.
that he would do it. So
No,
in
he
some
chose it.
way,
Wait. No.
you're
No,
saying you're
okay.
saying
The
that
thing.
that Allah predestined it for us. He had no choice. No matter what had happened, no matter what choices he would make, in the end, he would be there to kill your family member at that specific time because it's Allah's qadr that this person would kill your family member at this time. Okay, that's the issue. Now you basically destroy free will. There is no free will. So the issue of qadr is that it's almost this like the individual selfish idea where you think you have free will, but the rest of the world doesn't. Like you can choose to go out and murder somebody right now, right? You can get up, go to your kitchen, get a knife. Right now, you see you have that volition inside yourself. You can get up. You can actually do it now. Get up, go downstairs. First person you see, bam, stab them, kill them, murder them, right? Or you can choose not to. You can just choose. You can decide to do it tomorrow, or after tomorrow, or next week, or never, right? You choose that, right? And if you were to choose to go down and do that and kill that person, right? And then the person's father or thing will say, oh, that's the qadr of Allah. That's a lie. It's not the qadr of Allah. Not at all. Okay? That was you
Why not?
committing the murder.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you're conflating them. You're conflating the soul and the external world again.
But the external world has souls which have free will and which act.
Yes, but
Okay?
the consequences of a soul's action is the external world. But the action itself of the soul is not an external world. You might have choice of the action, but you don't have choice of the consequences. You might want to really kill someone and shoot someone. You've shot him. You've got your weapons. You got everything, but God wills, simply qadr, that you're not going to kill him. You're not going to be able to kill him ever, even though you've acted upon it. You've inclined towards it, but the external world, the bullet missed. Just like for Trump, for example, or for the people that were fighting, but
Like how people say that
they fled.
God saved Trump, huh? God saved Trump to do this and to do this and to, no. Look, this is the opposite way of the other thing as well. Where we say, just like we said, we attribute to God the evil that people do. All right. Now we say that the things which don't happen, it's because no, look, God intervenes. That does happen. There are angels which happen, which come in and intervene, and you can find a lot of stories about that, right? And Allah said to the Prophet, for example, Allah ya'asimuka minan nas. Allah is going to protect you from people. Allah
Sure.
Himself will protect you, right? It isn't the qadr, right, that's going to protect you. Allah Himself will protect you. He sent angels to protect him, right? Like real world things, real happenings, which really protect the person. Okay, there was this person who Hassan al-Malik used to tell us about this friend of his in Saudi, right? Who he became basically he wanted to become an atheist, but he would say the only thing which is stopping me from being an atheist is something that happened to him. Is that he was playing outside one time on the streets, in Saudi when those kids playing football, right? And the ball went out into the street, and he ran out to try and to get the ball, and there was literally nobody around him, right? and a car came speeding around, and it was going to, and he literally said, I felt a hand, a real hand, grab me by the back, back of my shirt, and pull me out of the way. And he turned around and he can't see anybody. He said, this is the only thing which is preventing me from becoming a full-blown atheist. Because this was somebody who was like really having trouble with religion and stuff. But I said, look, I want to be, but this is stopping me because it's something I know is real. Okay, it's something that's true, right? But not this idea that like this kind of how do I put it? That this is happening all the time, right? That if you were to go out right now and try to stab and kill somebody, right? That God is going to definitely prevent that if it wasn't for the time, that person's time to die. No, right? It's not definitely. Maybe God will protect that person from you from some way, right? Make you get you paralyzed halfway down the stairs or something, right? Something happened, but it's not in this kind of way where now we decide that everything that's happened and every choice everybody made, Allah now allowed it. That's the same as saying there's no free will, right? That's almost the same as saying there's no free will. Okay, you have free will, but you're only being allowed it's only being, the outlets are only being allowed as God chooses them, right?
Of course.
You have no real choice then. You don't have a choice.
No.
Yeah, you don't have a choice. If you have, it is that. Bring it down to the most meaningless of things, right? You have in front of you two juices, orange juice and apple juice, right? Is it Allah's qadr which one you're going to choose? No, it isn't. It isn't Allah's qadr which one you're going to choose at all. Allah's not going to intervene to make you choose the one which He for predestined for you to choose. Absolutely not. Right? You're going to choose the one that you want.
Okay.
And look, look again through the Quran with it, right? This idea that al-qadar khayrihi wa sharrihi min Allah, it's not there, right? And it comes from a hadith in terms of the listing of the pillars of Iman. That the hadith, it comes from that. It doesn't come from the Quran, right? And when the Quran lists those things, Iman billahi malaikati kutubi rusulihi wal yawmil akhir, and it stops, right? It stops there. It doesn't add al-qadr khayrihi wa sharrihi min Allah, right? And when you investigate where the hadith comes from, you find that it comes from somebody who was trying, who was arguing against people who denied qadr. So he brings up this hadith, right? So here he has this hadith which confirms qadr for the people against whom who are denying it. Isn't that suspicious? And then it's not. And who is it? It's a governor. It's one of the fasiqeen, one of the tyrants. It was one of the tyrants of Banu Umayyah, right? Who comes out, and nobody else brings this narration, right? This is something which is amazing to happen. That Jibril comes in. The hadith is that they were all in the mosque. The Sahaba were all in the mosque. They were sitting there, and then somebody comes out from the desert. His clothes exceedingly white, his hair exceedingly black, and there was no signs of travel upon him, and nobody knew who he was. And he came in and sat next to the Prophet. He put his knees next to the Prophet's knees, and he asked the Prophet, what is Islam? What is Iman? What is Ihsan? And the Prophet answers these things, among which he says that part of Iman is belief in the Qadr, right? And then this person gets up and goes, right? And Umar ibn Khattab, who's the supposed narrator here, he says, this is, he says he sat around, and after a little bit, the Prophet turns around, and he asks him, hey, Umar, do you know who that man was? And Umar says, Allah wa Rasul alam. He says, that was Jibreel who came to teach you your deen, right? That was Jibreel who came to teach you your religion. Okay, if that was Jibreel who came to teach it, why say that only to Umar after everybody else has gone? And why does nobody else narrate this hadith other than Ibn Umar, apparently, right? And Ibn Umar, who narrates it from Ibn Umar, not one of his famous students, but the governor of Banu Umayyah, right? Okay. The tyrant of Banu Umayyah. So if this event had really happened, you'd have a lot of people narrating this, right?
Okay.
But apparently,
Yeah.
it's just Umar to Ibn Umar to one of the governors of Banu Umayyah. Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
All right. Okay. I'm not actually arguing from the hadith. I didn't even know this hadith existed.
Yeah,
I'm just
I know you
arguing
don't. But
on qadar as a
I
topic.
yeah, I know, I understand. But I'm saying that the idea of qadr, we have it. Where does it come from, right?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it comes from the tradition. We have it in our minds, and I'm telling you that it's an early falsehood which has gotten in, and it's still there, right? So it's something which needs to be relooked at,
Okay.
right? Because
I'd like to. Okay, that's what I would like to ask. How is it a falsehood? So outside of the hadith, I still think that qadar does exist. So we have to first define what qadar is. Isn't qadar what God wills? When God wills something and it simply happens, is this not qadar?
No, I don't think you can call it qadr, right? So if you want to define it Quranically, what is qadr, right? Qadr, the main use of qadr in the Quran is like the measurement. الذي خلق فقدر, right? That he created and he measured, right? He measured things out, right? How much, the height of the human being, that's a qadr, right? There's also taqdeer, right? ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم, right? So there's some things, for example, the orbits of the planets, that's taqdeer, right? That the sun, the day follows night, and day follows night, night follows day. That's taqdeer, right? There are some things which Allah has put some laws in nature. That's all qadr, right? These are things which are qadr, right? What people are talking about when they talk about predestination and these sort of things, they're not talking about that. They're talking about everything that happens to you, right? Everything that happens to you, Allah has willed it to happen. Allah wrote it down a long time ago. They will happen this way, and that's how it's going to happen. Not because of foreknowledge, that's different, right? But because Allah has decreed it that way. Allah decided that it would happen this way, right? That's what people mean by qadr. Allah decided things would happen this way, and so that is how they are going to happen, right? Now, there are some things which God did decide, right, that He's going to do this because He made promises, right, that He's going to send messengers, for example, right, that the Prophet Muhammad would come. That is something which God had promised from before, right? He promised to Ibrahim alayhi salam, right? And he said that I'm going to send messengers, right? So there are specific things, where God really gets involved, right? Where things will happen the way God wants them to happen, and that's how it's going to be, right? Because Allah is making a divine intervention in the world, right?
Okay.
But we're not putting it all, or not everything that happens is God decreeing it in this kind of way. No,
Sure.
there are choices, and we are that people are given, right? And they're not part of the qadr, right?
Okay. Yeah. This is what I would like to talk about. So, qadar, sure. The other conception is not correct, but qadar, as in everything that is outside of the soul, is preordained by God.
I mean, I guess you need to get into the nuts and bolts of what do you mean everything outside of the soul, right? I mean, I
So
would say you'd have to
anything.
say, first of all, you'd have to say everything outside of the souls, so all of souls, right?
Yeah.
That's one thing. But for example, let's say somebody decides to go to a place where there's a plague, all right, or there's disease. Like they go to, like, I don't know, Amazon jungle or something, and then they get a disease, right? Is that qadr that they were going to get a disease? That wasn't qadr, because they didn't have to go to the jungle. They never went. They wouldn't have gotten that disease, right? So that's another thing. Like becoming sick,
Okay.
people say it's Allah's qadr that you're going to become sick, right?
Okay. Okay,
Well,
there's two
this 6
categories.
minutes or
There's
huh?
two, okay. Well, what seems to be why you reject color is there's two categories of color. Is when God allows someone to incline and for external world to change based on that inclination. Okay, I'll explain what I mean. So there are times when you incline, but when you incline, you're not going to change the external world. So what I mean, let's say for an example, the example of the two prisoners in Surah Yusuf. No matter what they did, no matter what they did at all, they would the one that would have been crucified was going to always get crucified, even if he tried to kill himself. This is simply his qadar. It's already been preordained.
No, that's one common misconception in that. If you read that verse carefully, what does
Well,
Yusuf say? Yusuf says, وقال للذي ظن أنه ناج منهما,
hmm,
right? And he said to the one who he thought would be would be safe, right? He
yeah.
said, I think that this person is going to be safe. Right? Dhann. He never said that the قال الذي سينجو or they would, definitely that this was it, right?
No. I'm talking about the
So
destiny of the two prisoners. I'm not talking about Yusuf. I'm not talking about
yeah,
Yusuf
yeah,
thinking someone is gonna. No, Yusuf.
yeah.
Yusuf gave them the two destinies they had.
No.
But
But that's what I'm saying. Yusuf understood. Yusuf understood that this wasn't a written destiny. That's why he said dhann, right? That's why I said that, the one that I think that you're going to be um, saved. But let's put that aside for a minute. I mean, I can accept this idea that people can be given knowledge of their future. Okay,
hmm,
okay. Now that's we're going down to that issue that people mix up, right, between predestination and foreknowledge, right? So what I'm going to choose tomorrow, right, is known. What are you going to do today, tomorrow? That's known by
no,
Allah.
I'm not talking about foreknowledge. Okay. I
Well,
was
that
talking
is
about
for
the
that is for
categories.
knowledge. What
No,
what
no, no.
what a dream, what the dream that they got, right? That was for knowledge. It wasn't destiny, right? So this is again what I'm saying, the mix up between destiny. If you see, if you are able to see the future, okay,
That's right.
if you're able to see a future through a dream, that doesn't mean that's your. I mean, say again the wording. That doesn't mean that it's um, um, that is something which is destiny in terms of you did not arrive there by free will, right? You still arrived. You're still going to arrive there by for your complete free will, right? It's not. It doesn't make it happen. The example I like to give is this: imagine if have you what's a famous movie? Have you seen The Matrix?
Yes.
Yeah, you've seen The Matrix, right? So imagine that you could go back in time till before The Matrix was written, right?
Hmm,
You know what you know it now, right? And
yeah.
you go back in time in a place where you're completely isolated from at all influencing how this movie is made. You go back in time in, I don't know, Australia or some desert island or something like that. You know now, right? This is, let's say, 10 years before the Matrix gets made. You know about this movie. You know how it's going to be, right? Does your knowledge, does that, you having that knowledge mean that that's the destiny? Does it mean that that's what that it's going to happen because you know it?
No.
No, right. In the end, it's other way around thinking, right? That what's that all the choices that were made to go into that movie. What's his name? Will Smith, right? He was offered the role of Neo, right? And he rejected it, right? He could have taken it, but he didn't, right? That isn't going to change. That isn't going to happen. His rejecting it isn't going to happen because you know it's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
It happened because that's what he's going to choose, right? So that's the difference. You have to be very careful when you're thinking of it in terms of like these kind of destiny things. So when you say those prisoners are going to, one of them is going to live, one of them is going to be I'm killed. Okay, that doesn't mean it's a destiny that they're going to go to no matter what they choose. No, that is a future that's going to happen based on what they are going to choose. Right? It's not a forced future. It is the future. Right? It's the future that will come about from their free choosing.
Okay.
So that's the difference what I say between the qadar, right? The traditional qadar is that this future happening of this is from Allah. Allah made it happen, right? That the future, the good and the bad, is from Allah. That the one who is going to live is going to live because Allah chose that. That the one who's going to die is going to die because Allah chose that, right? That's the qadr that I reject.
Okay.
Right? Not this this thing that this is the future that's going to happen, and people are going to arrive that because that is the future. That is their future, right? That's different.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe a better word, predestination, right? That's what people sometimes use, predestination or preordinance, right? That your destiny has already been written for you.
Yeah, of course.
Right? That's it. You have no choice. Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I reject.
Okay. I guess what I mean, I have to avoid my conception of qadar from that of predestination.
Yeah. That's basically that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. So what I was trying to say is that whatever happens is because God has allowed it to happen. Because sure you can have free will. Let's say yes, you have free will. But even if you have free will and you make actions and choices, you don't fully control your own body. You might say you might want to kill someone, for example, but then your body just malfunctions and shuts down before you do so. Like you might
you can say there are divine interventions, right? Like I said, I can accept that divine intervention to
God
prevent
can allow it, or God might do that, or God might allow you because but it's still always God's will. Whatever you do, it's still always God's will.
The default is the default is the free will, which is that God has already allowed it. Right? That's the default. The default isn't that something happens because God is specifically allowing that thing to happen. Right? The default is that God has already given you the free will to choose to allow this or that to happen. Now, God can make interventions, right? He has angels. I mean, one of the understudied things that we have is angels, right? The angels are involved in life, that they do protect. They are sent to certain things. And also there are other forces at work as well. Look at Khidr, the story of Musa and Khidr, right? You had somebody who was there who sort of like outside the normal things, working according to knowledge which God had given them, right?
That's right.
Right. So these are that story of Khidr is a very important one in this regard, right? That there's that Allah isn't making just some qadr happen, right? There's not just Allah is making this malfunction. There's somebody there, somebody being sent actually, who God has told him this. This is the issue. This is like when it comes to that boy, right? That this boy is going to become a tyrant, right? And so it's not Allah's qadr, right? Allah's qadr isn't that this person malfunctioned, right? The boy malfunctioned or died prematurely, right? And the Khidr was there. He was given this knowledge, and he made the choice. By the way, I mean, one thing which is talking about that story is in the end, Khidr will be judged accordingly, right? Whether he made the right decision or not, Okay, and the same thing with the ship. Okay, the ship that he said, okay, that uh, these poor people, and then there was like a pirate or a king who was going to take their ship, and that's why he messed up the boat. Okay, um, that's real intervention. Okay, and
But
yes, that happened.
what about that of the orphans?
Yeah, what about it? So this is the one when because they had a prayer from a forefather. So a
Yeah.
forefather had made a prayer that like as we all do, as we all pray for our children, we want them to be good, or to be taken care of, or something like that, right?
Mm.
And so God answered that prayer, and He wanted to keep to keep their wealth for them, right? Now, Allah could have been done that that wall which was hiding their treasure. Why didn't just Allah make it the qadr that it would not fall down? Why was there a need for Khidr to come along later and build it up, right? Well, it was falling down because somebody was knocking it down, or something happened, or different things, right? But the fact that you have somebody in there tasked with doing things, or angels in there tasked with doing things, right? It's showing that when it comes to God allowing things to happen or not allowing things to happen, it's not just this sort of like mystical thing, or your body just suddenly clamping up, or we don't see these stories of just these like really bad kind of. No, we see, you can find these kind of stories of where it seems angels are involved, or people are involved, or things getting involved, even other people, people having a dream about, I don't know, go to the mosque and give some money to this poor person that you see, and so there are these things, there are these subtle things which happen, but these are really interventions, right?
Mm.
I don't put those under the idea of qadr and predestination, and that this was going to be how it's going to be. No, Allah is getting involved in these things.
Mm. That's the interesting thing about free will is how yeah, I guess choices. Oh, what God has allowed you for choices and for you to choose. It,
Yeah,
it's not intervention per se, but it's not predestination.
yeah. I mean, I don't think that there is predestination takes
Yeah.
away from the idea of free will. When we talk about predestination, um, um, I don't think there's planning. There's pre-planning. There's makrullah, right?
Mm.
ومكروا مكرهم والله ويمكرون والله يمكر والله خير الماكرين. Allah is the best of planners, right?
Yeah.
So they planned and they wanted this or this or
Yeah.
this to happen, but
One
Allah
thing.
planned something else, right?
What, what, what if you consider qadar, or let's say predestination, as the choices that you're going to be allowed to have? Let's say your qadar is the choices that you're allowed to have.
Well, I mean, I suppose, I mean, but you could say that, but that's sort of like that isn't what I'm rejecting. Sort of, okay,
Yeah.
the choices you're allowed to have,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
what?
We're trying to find the truth. It's not.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, when you say that the choices you're allowed to have, like what? I mean, there's just you have such an infinite variety of choices, right? What choices are you not allowed to have? Would be my
Yeah.
question. What choices are you being prevented from having,
Yeah, I guess.
right?
Yeah, this would be
Um,
what qadar is. Like,
um,
let's say you can't fly. You don't have wings. You're not. This is
yeah,
not
I mean that's
qadar.
what I said. تقدير. That's when you talk about قدر. الذي خلق فقدر.
Mm.
Or قدر فهدى, right? That that it's qadr. A big part of qadr is in actually the creation itself. It's the measure,
Yeah,
how things are measured, the measurement that Allah, how much of something there is,
that's true.
right? How big or how small, how much is given, how you know. وَمَا نَنزِلُهُ إِلَّا بِقَدَرٍ مَعْلُومٍ, right? We only send down certain amount of rain and these kind of things. Okay, so it's about measurements of things.
Yeah,
Anyway, bro, look, it's been good speaking to you, but there's
yeah,
one person I just
yeah. I
saw
got
who
it.
was who's come up, and also it's getting pretty late. So I just want to give this other person a bit of time, and then maybe call it a night. But Jazakallah khair, Adam. Very good. The other person before was asking about your Instagram or some social media or something.
Yeah, I
don't know
sent
if
him the email.
You sent him? All right. Okay. Brilliant. Okay. Again, it was excellent having you on. Please make sure you come on again. We did say you would be willing to come on and give a presentation about
Kafirin?
kafirin, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. Maybe we can send me a message, and maybe I can make it one stream where it's just dedicated to you. So I won't make a presentation. You can just do something. Okay.
All right.
Would you be willing for that?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Brilliant. Excellent. Okay. Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much.
All right. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Oops. All right. I'll put you on very quickly. Assalamu alaikum, Muzammil.
Alaikum assalam. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Alhamdulillah. Ramadan Kareem Mubarak.
Ramadan Mubarak to you as well, brother. Yeah, so I don't really have, I'm not going to take much of your time. I just had like a couple of things that I wanted to share first, and then we'll be on our way. So I just recently discovered your channel, and I've been like learning a lot. I would say, like I would say I was kind of very unsure about Islam, like up to a certain age, and now I'm kind of relearning a lot of things from you and other sources about like Qur'anic Islam. And so my next question is it's a very short question, but do we have to stay on topic, or can we
No. Anything is fine.
All right. Yeah, so it's kind of about a couple of things. So I remember you were talking like yesterday I was watching your video on marrying the mushrikeen. And there's a couple of other videos I watched as well, and you were saying that the polytheist means the polytheists in Makkah, not like polytheists in general. But then when you look at like other places like Tirmidhi, like they argue that it is the polytheists in general, and that's not just that special verse about marriage, but other places as well. So I was just wondering, like, could you point me to like directions on how did you come up with this exact explanation of that? And then
I'm not sure. I mean, I wasn't really. I don't think I was talking about them being the mushrikeen of Mecca only. Maybe that's like one of the things I mentioned in passing. You're talking about the verse about don't marry the mushrikeen, yes?
Yes. Because you also went into like there's another verse which if you say that then it'll be conflicting, because if you commit zina and then you can marry the mushrikeen.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
So
first of all, when it comes to mushrikeen, right, it's not really polytheists, right? So mushrikeen and polytheists, they're not the same thing. They're not interchangeable, right? Shirk is something very different from polytheism, right? Somebody can be a polytheist and not be a mushrik.
A mushrik,
right? Yeah. Somebody can be a polytheist and not be a mushrik, and somebody can be a mushrik and not a polytheist, right? Somebody can actually believe only in God only, that there's no other gods but God, but he can still be a mushrik. Okay.
Right. Yes. I understand.
Shirk is about ibadah to others with Allah, right?
Yes.
Doesn't matter if those doesn't matter if those others are gods or not gods, right? And there are some people that can believe in multiple gods, right? They believe all these gods exist, but they are only in ibadah to one God. It might not even be Allah, right? Maybe somebody is like involved, like like the pantheon of the Greek gods or something. You had people who were like, there were all these gods. They believed they all existed, but I serve Zeus, so I serve this, or I serve, right? And they don't serve any of the other gods, right? That person is also not is he he's a polytheist, right? But he's not even a mushrik, and it's not a mushrik of Allah. It's like he has sort of like ibadah to that one God, right?
Right.
And it's not even Allah, right? So shirk, what's condemned in the Quran, is this shirk where somebody believes in Allah. There's somebody who believes Allah exists, right? He knows who Allah is, the creator of the heavens and the earth, right? And they have ibadah to Allah, and they have ibadah to others with Allah, right?
Right.
This is shirk, right? This is shirk.
Okay.
So the issue of the marrying mushrikeen, right, is that there's a serious lack of safety with that. Okay, somebody who knows that Allah exists and they're in ibadat, but they're also in ibadat to others with Allah, to other than Allah, that can be very dangerous, right? That can be very
Right.
dangerous, right? It can pull you to hellfire, right? And so
Right.
what the verses are saying is لا تنكحوا المشركات حتى يؤمن, right? Don't marry them until you're safe of them, basically, right? I mean, I think the qira'ah there should be حتى يؤمن with a fatha, right? With a fatha, until you're sure of them. Okay, don't marry them until you're sure of what, right? You don't want them to be people who will pull you to hellfire, and this is
Right.
more like a recommendation rather than it being actually haram to
Yeah.
marry. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Understood.
who you can and who you can't marry is dealt with completely in one list in one place in the Quran, right?
Understood.
Lists everybody. It has nothing to do with religion. Lists all those who you can't marry, and then it says وَحِلَّ لَكُمْ وَرَاءَ ذَلِكُمْ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ. All other women other than that are halal to marry. Okay, but you do very well not to marry somebody who is a mushrik, even if they are Muslim mushrik, right? You have that. You have people who are Muslims, right?
Yes.
But their ibadah is mixed. Their ibadah to Allah is mixed with ibadah to their scholars, to their shuyukh, to their traditions, to their madhab, to their. They have these divided loyalties, and that can burn you. That can really burn you, right?
Just like how Sheikh Hassan says it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're married to, if you're married to like a fanatical Wahhabi woman, right? She'll make your life hell, right? She'll pull you to hell, right?
Understood.
Your akhlaq, your character becomes worse. You become an angry person. Because it's not a harmonious place, right? And then she tries to push you to act in her way, right? So let's say she says, let's say then you have your kids and one of your kids leaves Islam, right? And then now she wants you to disinherit him. Why? Well, Allah doesn't say anything about disinheriting your children, right?
Yeah.
But for her, no. This is the what the scholars teach, right? That you can't, that the kids of those of different religions do not inherit each other, right? So now you must disinherit your child, right?
Yeah.
More than that, you have to get him killed. You have to
Kill them.
deport him.
Yeah. Kill the
He's an
apostate.
apostate, right? So you have that's the issue, right? So
Understood.
that's why the verse says أُولَٰئِكَ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى النَّارِ. They call to the fire, right?
Yeah.
If you have like a real mushrik, right? Understand? Of course, the issue of those mushrikeen that we're talking about again, we're talking about the ibadah to others with Allah, in those things which if it's in line with what Allah says, it doesn't take away from it. Like somebody who is in servitude to somebody else who is commanding what Allah is commanding, right? That's indistinguishable, right? That's not the issue, right? The issue is that what Allah commands is al-adl wal-ihsan wa itani dhil qurba, justice, ihsan, these things. That's what Allah commands. But if you have other than Allah, ultimately they will end up calling to themselves if they are not, people of Allah. That's why, for example, obedience to the messenger is part of obedience to Allah, right? Because they will always, right? So it's also that it comes back to one of the things mentioned in those verses about shirk. وَأَن تُشْرِكُوا بِاللَّهِ مَا لَمْ يُنَزِّلْ بِهِ سُلْطَانًا, that you do shirk of Allah in that which He has sent down no authority, right? So somebody like the messenger, they have authority, right? They have the authority that you are to obey them. So there is this quote unquote shirk in obedience to messengers, right? Because
Understood.
Allah has not sent messengers except that they should be obeyed. But again, that's not the shirk that we're talking about, right? We're talking about actual, real servitude to others who are other than Allah, who are in opposition to what Allah commands,
Yeah.
right?
Understood. Yeah, that's very clear. Do you have a schedule for these live streams? Like do you post somewhere? I'm just very new and I don't know when you come on. And
No, that's fine. It's every 2 weeks. So we
okay.
do this bi-weekly, the weekends. I try to post them a little bit early. Make the set them up a few hours beforehand, like at least like 5 hours, 6 hours. But it's usually going to be Saturday or Sunday, around how this one started, whatever time it was for you, around this time, right? So in the evening, it's either going to be Saturday or Sunday, right? I try to do it Saturday, but sometimes I'm busy with things. I end up usually doing it Sunday. The past few months I've been doing it on Sundays, but it's going to be during the weekends, right? Saturday or Sunday, and like
Bi-weekly.
yeah, bi-weekly, and starting like what now, 3 hours before whatever time it is for you now.
Yeah, I'm Pacific Standard Time, so yeah, it's like
Okay.
afternoon. Yeah, understood.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. That was very helpful.
You're welcome.
And
Welcome
yeah,
anytime. Okay,
and
brilliant. Muzammil, yes?
yes, Muzammil. Muzammil.
Muzammil. Okay, Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything else? Or?
No, I mean, I'm not slave for you, and like as I said,
It's
like
fine.
I
It's
don't.
fine. Yeah, it's fine.
I guess the other thing that I was again concerned about is like, so I have actually, so it's been like more than like a couple of months since I've gone on this journey, and it's because of some like personal life reasons. And I've been kind of going like back to back with my mom and dad. And a lot of times, what the people who really believe in hadith bring up is like, how do you know about the qiraat of the Quran if you reject the hadith? And I don't know, I haven't watched all of your videos yet. So if there is something that you made about it, you can just point me to that.
No, I haven't really
Um,
talked about that. But I mean, I did talk. I have a Reddit profile and I'm involved with the Qur'aniyuna subreddit. So I mean, I've mentioned about it there. The
okay.
issue of the qiraat, of course, that's always brought up. What they don't understand is that it's a really bad argument, right? Because first of all, the like the qiraat they probably read as hafs, right? The hafs qiraat,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Hafs is rejected as a hadith narrator, right? He's actually
Really?
rejected. Yeah, he's considered a liar, right? As a hadith narrator, he's completely rejected. Nobody accepts the hadiths which Hafs narrates, right? So they have this
Okay.
whole idea, if you accept the Quran, then you should accept the hadith because the same people who are narrated the hadith are no, they are not. They are not, right? And they just tell them, bring all the hadiths which come from the same qira'ah that you read and accept them. They will not accept them. Especially Sunnis will not, because Hafs was a more Shi'i inclined person, right? So he has narrations that no Sunnis are going to accept, yet they accept from him the Quran, right?
Right.
So it's this idea that you must accept the hadiths because the same people. No, but you don't do that. You don't accept the narrations of the people who brought you the Quran. And secondly, the people who brought us the hadiths are not the people who brought us the Quran, right? We don't have a qira'ah. The qira'ah we have now, all of the qira'at, they don't come from Bukhari. We don't have a qira'ah of Bukhari or Muslim or any of them, right?
Right. So
If you take, but you're asking about how do you know which is the correct qira'ah,
exactly.
right?
Yeah. Then I'm gonna
Well,
ask. Yeah, that's the next
yeah,
question because they're gonna ask me this like when I talk to my
yeah.
mom and dad. Yeah.
The issue is, of course, there isn't the correct qira'ah was not documented properly. The early it's a failing of the early Muslims, of the early ummah, right? So they just didn't document it properly, right? The Prophet did not recite in multiple qira'at. The Prophet recited only one way. Okay, he recited in one way, he taught in one way. All of these qira'at are just proliferations, they're divergences from the Prophet's actual qira'ah. Okay.
And we don't know which one is the right one then.
Well, no, none of them are going to be, because in the end, how you have to study how this qira'at came about as well, right? So most of them are the person's like choosing different things. So a narrator is going to like listen from different, or a qari is going to listen from different masters, and sometimes he chooses the way one of his teachers recited here, and chooses how another of his teachers recited here, and he makes his own qira'ah. Right, so the qira'ah of Hafs, how Hafs recited, is completely unique to him. Right, it's not exactly how his teacher recited. Right, it's his sort of like, not reconstruction, but that's how he taught. He was taught from the teachers around him, and in the end, he settled on reciting certain things a certain way. And the same thing with the others. Right, and that's why you have, for example, we have, of course, Hafs and Asim, and you also have Shu'bah and Asim. So we have another student of Asim whose recitation is different from Hafs. So there's two qira'at which come of those two reciters, who are both students of the same person, the same teacher. Their recitations are different. Why their recitation is different? Right? Why are they different?
So that's a fair argument against someone bringing that point up. Then it begs the question, like me as someone who's now trying to like follow like live life just through the Quran. Should I be skeptical about like whatever I'm reading, because it could be?
No, not really, because look, when you look at the qira'at, so the qira'at which have altogether we've got 20, right? 20 qira'at which are considered canonical, right? There is not a single verse where which teach differently, like from different qira'at. They all teach exactly the same thing. Are there small differences? Yes, most of them are extremely negligible, right? They're just like, most of them are just phonetical, right? They're not really differences in meaning. There are some where meanings of words are different, right? But the meaning of the verse is still the same. Like what the verse is telling you to do, or what it's teaching, the import of the verse is exactly the same. So you definitely don't need to worry about that at all. Stick with one qira'ah, it's fine. I personally think the Hafs qira'ah is probably the closest to the prophets. And I have my reasons for that. I put that in the Reddit post. But I think it's the closest. But and there are different ways where we can start to like from internally from the Quran start to weed out certain things. Like one thing is show that one qira'ah is probably better in this instant than in the other one. But again, we're talking about very, very few and far between things. I mean, almost negligible, right? It really changes nothing. It doesn't matter which qira'ah you use. It's still going to be the guidance of the Quran, right? So remember, it's about focus on the dhikr. Once you sort of like want to get this very nitpicky detailing things of like really, really small things, maybe it will matter, right? Maybe it will matter in like very, very small things. But most of the time, it really doesn't matter at all. The differences in the qira'at are completely superfluous.
Understood. Do you know what I can search on Reddit for that post? Just qira'at, I guess, would
Let
probably
me
work.
see. Hold on. Let me see if I can pull it up now and post it. So it's more like about the history. Try and find it. It was one of my earlier ones. The general idea is still there, but it does need maybe some updating. Down.
Also, do you have like, what note-taking app are you using here? Is it Obsidian?
Obsidian, yeah.
So
you know it?
did you? Yeah,
Well,
I've
what
used Obsidian in the past.
you've used it, yeah. Well, what I just did is basically created a Google folder to share all of the stream notes. So if anybody wants to
So I
just
can
read
just
through.
import it to Obsidian and then it'll show up as this graph view.
Yeah, exactly. You
Awesome.
can.
That
Well, I mean,
is
what you're
amazing.
seeing there is the graph for the whole vault, not for the what I've shared. What I've shared is just one of the nodes, which is the Caravan of Contemplation live stream things. So
Right.
I put those into one folder, so you can download those, and then you can, if you want, to read through all of the different streams. Let me try and find out one way. Where is it? Here it is. Okay. Okay, I'll put it into the chat now.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Jazakallah.
So
Thank
that's
you.
it. Just check is that. You can see that, right?
Yes, I can see that, and it opens up
Yeah.
with the
Yeah. Okay. You're welcome. Yeah. So you can just download the. I've shared the link for it's in the description of this video. It should turn up, and also it should be up there in the chat somewhere. But I shared this folder, okay, and it's just got all of the notes for this. So all of these ones that you can see sort of on the left here, this bottom right node, that's basically all of the Caravan of Contemplation notes that I have. There are some which are missing because I switched laptops and lost a few notes. Maybe I'll try to rewrite them by rewatching those videos and rewrite and redo those notes. And the formatting is a little bit off because I was using log.6 for some of them, but they're still just markdown files. And you can just import into Obsidian, and if you want, just read through those. Okay.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you so much, Jazakallah khair.
Welcome. All right.
All right.
No
Thank you.
problem. No problem. Alaikum assalam. Take care of yourself.
So,
Alaikum assalam. All right. Okay. And with that, I think we'll end the stream. Do I have any questions? Okay. Apologies that recitation is not really important. Important to read the scripture and reflect on it. Yes, that's exactly right. Okay. Yes. Assalamu alaikum. Yes, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum again.
Yeah.
Okay. So on this subject, I've already kind of sent the message. So the Quran is a book of guidance. The whole mission is to serve God. You're not serving the Quran. Okay. And God guides who He wills. So I'd like to kind of just show you what does it actually mean to be guided. Look at this. So Surah Al-Zumar, verse 18. الذين يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه أولئك الذين هداهم الله وأولئك هم أولو الألباب. This is what it means to kind of be guided. To once you've been given a lot of statements, a lot of things, a lot of propositions, you follow the best of it. This is guidance, and this is what it means to be min ulul albab. And see on this on Surah Al-Ra'd 13:17. أنزل من السماء ماء فسالت أودية بقدرها فاحتمل السيل زبدا رابيا ومما يوقدون عليه في النار ابتغاء حلية أو متاعا زبدا مثله. Okay, so what this means is the method of this is a big river, and it has a lot of froth, a bunch of like white clouds, and then there's ornaments. There's like gold inside there or something, and so this is truth and falsehood. The falsehood would be zabad. You would have like maybe an ornament. You have like maybe a bunch of rings, of maybe shields, swords. This is the truth. This is what you're looking for. And then you're gonna have zabad, a bunch of froth, white clouds that look exactly like it. And now continue. كذلك يضرب الله الحق والباطل فأما الزبد فيذهب جفاء وأما ما ينفع الناس فيمكث في الأرض كذلك يضرب الله الأمثال. So what happens is all the froth, all these white clouds, they dissipate to nothingness, while the truth stays. Okay? So what matters is guidance. What matters is you going for the truth, and this is what it means to be guided. So the Quran itself, even if the Quran, whatever, who cares about the Quran? What matters is guidance. What matters is you're on the truth, or you're on the right path, and that you're serving God. That's all. That's all I have to say. And
Okay, brilliant. Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much for that. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. We'll end it there. Thank you so much. Yeah, he's asking, can you please share more verses there? I'm not sure if the chat will stay up after I close this. But again, Jazakumullah khair. Thanks everybody for coming on. Enjoy Ramadan. Do check out the link which is in the description. Download the presentation notes if you want. Highly recommend Obsidian for your note taking and to browse it, or to do your own Tadaburat and thinking, linking your thinking, as one of the famous Obsidian users says. I mean, if you check out on YouTube, linking your thinking, there's like a little course about Obsidian which goes into how to make the most of it. Okay, going on there. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, and see you in a couple of weeks. Salam. Maybe next week, we'll see. Salam.